Good evening. I'm going to call the City Commission meeting on May 9th, 2024 to order at 6:30 p.m. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please. Here?
Here.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
All right, we're going to have our invocation tonight offered by Jacob Newton, pastor of High Springs Church of God, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this city commission comprised of these individuals that you will grant great wisdom to. We pray that every decision that they make, they would be able to make with that wisdom, and ask that you would grant them discernment and understanding. And we give you praise and we give you thanks for it all. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, next on the agenda is approval of the agenda tonight, please.
I make a motion that we approve the amended agenda.
So, the amended agenda, yes, sir.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that the amended agenda be approved. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, the minutes of the April 25th, 2024 budget workshop, and the minutes of the April 25th, 2024 commission meeting.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The consent agenda is passed. All right. Next, we have special presentations. Our first special presentation is Introduction and Recognition of Mayor's Youth Council. In order to get our youth involved in their local government, in July of 2023, the City Commission modified the ordinance for the Mayor's Youth Council to consist of 5 members versus the previous 7, with 2 alternates. At the December 14th, 2023 Commission meeting, the Commission appointed the members of the Mayor's Youth Council to help serve our community. The Youth Council has now had several meetings and has begun to serve our community, and we would like to introduce the community to some of the members of our Youth Council who are here tonight, if you wouldn't mind coming up. Tell us your name.
My name's Camden Treese. I'm the chair of the Mayor's Youth Council, and I joined because I wanted to make a difference in my community, and I found this was a great way to do it.
Thanks.
I'm Anna Weitz. I'm the vice chair of the council, and I joined for pretty much the same reason. I thought it was a really cool opportunity.
My name's Aiden Bloodsworth, and I am a council member of the council, and I joined for pretty much the same reason.
My name is Sam Nickel, and I joined the council to help get more involved and improve my community.
I can tell you all that they were a huge help for Pioneer Days. There was some prom action and some senior grad night stuff, so not all of them could come, but those two folks in the middle showed up early Saturday morning and helped get vendors set up. And Leela, who's not here, helped the vice chair over there set up, helped a lady set up her booth on Friday night. And Sam and his younger brother came to help with trash. He brought his brother, and they were amazing. And, you know, for those of you guys that showed up and helped out, it might not have meant a lot to you, but it meant everything to the people who you helped. And I'm really proud of what you guys have done so far, and we're excited to see what's coming. And I'm hoping that maybe you guys would entertain the idea of having a joint meeting, maybe in the late summer or early fall with the City Commission, so we could all talk together. We can talk about that later, though. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. All right, next on the agenda is a proclamation declaring May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week, We have some of our Public Works folks here. I see Jason in the back. Oh, you're hiding back there. Okay. All right, gentlemen. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform, and now therefore I, Catherine Whites, Mayor of the City of High Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024, as National Public Works Week in the City of High Springs, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, and comfort, and in the quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the City of High Springs, Florida, this 9th day of May 2024. Gentlemen, we appreciate you more than you know. You guys are the ones out there digging. You guys are the ones out there making sure the water stays on when people cut the water main and drain the entire tank. So, and Jennifer's not here. I don't see Jennifer here, but she certainly is a vital part as well. So thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you so much. Our next special presentation is a proclamation declaring May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week. And we have some of our gentlemen here with our new chief here as well. This proclamation states, whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, and emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating the Emergency Medical Services Week now. Therefore, I, Catherine Whites, Mayor of the City of High Springs, in recognition, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024, as Emergency Medical Services Week. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. You help us keep going every day. We appreciate you so much. And I shared with Chief earlier that they showed up to my church on Sunday. We had a medical emergency right in the middle of the service, and they were right there. All right, next we have a proclamation in recognition of the 125th anniversary of the GFWC High Springs New Century Women's Club. Whereas the High Springs New Century Women's Club has been an integral part of the history of High Springs. Whereas the High Springs Women's Club is a group of nearly 100 local women who are looking to improve the community through involvement in educational literacy, scientific, and charitable endeavors. Whereas the High Springs Women's Club supports and promotes volunteer activities within our community to benefit civic and local organizations. Whereas the High Springs Women's Club encourages awareness of our natural resources and caring for the world around us by participating in local river cleanup, beautification of our community, and recycling programs. Whereas the High Springs Women's Club provides mentors, tutors, school supplies for teachers, and books for High Springs Community School and community daycare centers. Whereas the High Springs Women's Club, in addition to community service projects, has a number of social activities including paint stick bingo, arts and crafts, a card group, and monthly book club. Whereas the GFWC High Springs New Century Women's Club is celebrating 125 years in our community. Now, therefore, I, Catherine Whites, Mayor of High Springs, put forth this proclamation in recognition of the 125th anniversary of the GFWC High Springs New Century Women's Club and express appreciation for their commitment to our community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the City of High Springs, Florida, this 9th day of May, 2024. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for everything you do. We appreciate you. All right. Andrew's here. There he is. Next on the agenda is a presentation on legislative updates by Andrew Colell, Sunrise Consulting Group.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission. Andrew Colell, Sunrise Consulting Group. I am the town's lobbyist, government affairs person, advocate. Is it working? Okay. I'd like to start by saying to the Commission, thank you for allowing me to represent this town. I truly believe this town's a gem. I've been coming here for many years. I have some friends that live here. I love this place. It is truly a gem in the state of Florida, so I'm very grateful and honored to represent y'all. So let's start. So I used to work for a gentleman who was a lieutenant governor, and he had a sign above his desk that said, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are fine when the legislature's not in Tallahassee. And I do believe that to some extent. So just some statistics about the Florida legislative session. They're 60 days every year, and sometimes it's in January, February. It goes back and forth. One year is January, February. The next year is March and April. So this year we had a January, February ends the first week of March session. Next year we'll have a March, April ends the first week of May session, goes back and forth. We had 2,000 pieces of legislation that were filed in Tallahassee. 16% of those passed. That used to be a little bit smaller number. They made a change to the rules, and the amount of bills that pass now is a little bit higher percentage. But we want a low percentage of bills to pass, right? We want the process in Tallahassee to have tough conversations and review and things to not necessarily be able to just get on through without a long conversation. So oftentimes it takes a couple of years for legislation to get through. Some significant high media attention legislation that passed. Some healthcare legislation, as you may have seen, some social media legislation that went to the governor and went back and forth between the legislature and the governor regarding minors' access to social media. State budget. I don't know if anybody here has ever seen it. It's 525 pages of very tiny font, $117 billion. Some details about the budget. One thing I really want to point out is the state spent $410 million on water projects. Water projects are your water mains, your wastewater, taking care of your lagoons, taking care of your rivers. It's very important that the legislature does that, and that number has gone up every year. As more people move to Florida, we have to provide more water and wastewater, and the legislature helps out local governments with water projects. City of High Springs received $1 million towards its new police department. It's something we worked on, and I'd like to thank Mayor for coming up and Commissioner Williams for coming up and the previous city manager and all the staff who helped with that. That was and kudos to the chief. He was incredible in the way he presents everything that's going on here. Team effort, and Representative Brandon and Senator Jennifer Bradley. You've got a great delegation here in High Springs, and it really does make a difference. I'd like to point out that maybe in future commission meetings we could invite them to come here and we could thank them. I would do that, but a great delegation to help with this. So I'm excited to break ground on that and see where that goes. I like to include kind of what's going on around you. There was a $2 million to almost $3 million appropriation for some kind of World Masters Athletic Indoor Championship. I had read a little bit more on it earlier, and I now forgot what it was, but it was only type of its kind in the country was going to be held here in Gainesville. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Shands Teaching Hospital received a little under $10 million. And this Boulware Springs Waterworks received $500,000 for some renovations. So just some things that are happening in and around your community. Into the policy that went through, and I've watched some previous city commission meetings, and I know your town attorney keeps y'all apprised of some things that are going on, so you may know a few of these items already. This bill was particularly controversial, received a lot of media attention. It's the public sleeping and camping bill. And what this piece of legislation says is that you, as a city government, cannot decide that the front steps of this city hall is where homeless people can sleep and camp for a period of time without taking a couple of steps. You have to get that area certified by the Department of Children and Families. It has to have bathrooms. It has to have this. It has to have that. And then the city can go ahead and say this is where they can sleep. But you have to check with your local businesses, because if they're not happy with that, then there's a cause of action that can be brought against the city for allowing people to sleep or camp too close to certain organizations and businesses. Why did that bill come about? Well, as I was speaking with Commissioner Bloodsworth earlier outside of chamber here, sometimes cities say, hey, everybody who's homeless, go ahead and go here, and with little regard for maybe businesses in the surrounding area. And so the legislature passed this piece of legislation to respond to that. Affordable housing, it's been a big conversation in Tallahassee for 2 or 3 years. The current and outgoing Senate president, this was a priority of hers to try to help with some of the housing crisis that we have in the state. I know, as a conversation I was having earlier, that High Springs maybe doesn't have quite the available land as some other localities do, but there's significant changes that somebody could come in and say, oh, I've got this thing certified through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. This is going to be an affordable housing project. Little that the city can do to change that or disapprove it. It'll be built. It will receive less. You'll receive less taxes from it. There's a tax discount for ad valorem taxes, and of course, again, some incentives from the state to help build those. Last year, that bill passed, Senate Bill 328. There were some tweaks to that this year about the height of these developments. You know, they can't be so tall next to a little bit shorter building to try to kind of maintain the community a little bit. And then with that, I always like to talk about the tax package, but I put it right after the Live Local affordable housing bill, because in the tax package, every year the state passes a tax package, and it includes things like this year a power tool tax holiday. So I'll get all my new Dremels during that time. It also tax holiday for outdoor equipment like bikes and pool floats and those kinds of things. But there's also a way that local governments can actually opt out of this bill if they meet certain criteria. That language is housed in the state tax package. Provide some other discounts for homeowners insurance. You know, everyone's trying to combat the rising cost of homeowners insurance, so there's a temporary break on taxes, premium taxes on homeowners and flood insurance in Florida that was housed in the tax package. So everybody will see that on their property tax bills. Building permit legislation. This was a hot topic. Two bills, I put them together on one slide because they relate. The bill on the left, Senate Bill 812, we in Tallahassee, the folks like me who work in the Capitol, we kind of dubbed that the Lennar bill. They were a big stakeholder behind that bill. That doesn't affect High Springs quite yet because it's for populations of 10,000 or more. But House Bill 267 does, and it puts some pretty stringent timelines on building permits when somebody comes in and applies for a permit, how quickly the city has to respond, how many times they can ask for information, and how quickly the city either has to approve that building permit, deny that building permit, or deny it with conditions. Some cities already have a very quick process, but if you don't, I would recommend reviewing that. Back to 812, I think all local governments will have to actually keep a list of private vendors that are available to help review plans. The idea is if you got a lot of plans coming in and city staff can't do it, you need to have some vendors that are available to help you review building plans. So last year, you guys may have seen this, they passed a bill that if you pass an ordinance, and it's not lost on me, the agenda that you guys have tonight, but if you passed an ordinance that a business was not happy with, that they could take action against the city. In that bill, they specifically exempted any changes for the land development code. Senate Bill 1628, they went back on that and they added the land development code to that piece of policy. So now any ordinance that you pass, you have to do a business impact statement. You have to provide that. And now if you also take a land development change, you have to provide a business impact statement. And it opens up folks to, certain stakeholders, not everybody, to be able to bring action against the city. So we thought we were exempt from land development code, and then we weren't. House Bill 479, and obviously I know the numbers, I'm running through them, just the subject is more important. Mobility transportation impact fees. There were some areas of the state where some developers were getting double charged. County was charging one impact fee, city was charging another impact fee. Local governments will have to enter into a interlocal agreement when there's a development that maybe, the county's issuing some permits, the city's issuing some permits, or perhaps that development goes between jurisdictions, and only the city or the county who's issuing the permits are the ones that can actually charge the transportation impact fees. Vacation rentals, probably not a big thing here in High Springs if I had to imagine. However, it was a big conversation in Tallahassee, and this bill did pass. It's awaiting the governor's signature. I've heard it might get vetoed. We'll see what happens with that. It gives you an option if you guys end up having, out of nowhere, a lot of vacation rentals, because this is a desirable place to come visit. An option to do some enforcement, because vacation rentals are preempted to the state, to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, but it allows the city to at least charge a registration fee and have a list of who owns this thing and who's on call 24 hours to respond to problems. So if we ever get to that point, this would be of value to the city. PACE loans, everybody familiar with the PACE loan? It used to not be able to put water improvements and wastewater improvements into a PACE loan. They changed that, so now you can, along with some accountability measures for these PACE loan organizations that tend, sometimes, not all, some of them tend to be bad actors to their customers. Cybersecurity, really important. The state's taken actions to make sure that cybersecurity make sure everyone knows this is important. There's a grant out there. I spoke with Commissioner Bloodsworth earlier about grants that are available. There's a grant out there for cybersecurity. But the city will be able to get some requirements and some standards from the state, work to meet those standards, and it will provide immunity to cybersecurity attacks, liability for cybersecurity attacks. So a good positive for local government administration for the rise of cybersecurity attacks. Going to the ballot, so the legislature passed a piece of legislation that puts a referendum on the ballot in November to raise the property. So you have property taxes. Your first $50,000 of value is tax, and then you have that little window between $50,000 and $25,000 where certain taxes are not there except for school taxes. It's only that $25,000 spread. They're increasing that, and then they're tying that to an inflationary mechanism, to the CPI. So now that will automatically adjust that property tax exemption if this passes on the ballot at the end of the year. And then there's a corresponding bill that did some statutory changes if this passes. Florida retirement system, very important. City of High Springs is on FRS. Not a lot of municipalities are. It's actually a small amount that are on FRS. They updated the annual rates of what the city pays in as an employer contribution. Unfortunately, it goes up every year, went up again this year. And they made some other minor changes to FRS. There was a much larger FRS piece of legislation that was filed. We were going to see maybe a COLA. We were going to see some other changes. We were going to see where the employee would potentially pay in more. That didn't make it through, and it just really looked more like a standard FRS package that passes every year. I've got like 2 more slides. I'll breeze through them here. Continuing contracts. City, works with vendors through a continuing contract, the CCNA. Within those contracts, they can do up to like $4 million of work through that contract. That was increased to $7.5 million. So with the inflation that's been happening and the cost of building projects, giving some cities more room to breathe within those contracts. This is my last one. So the Department of Environmental Protection, every year, as you guys know, that is the agency that regulates your water and wastewater, which is a large part of what the city does. DEP passed their annual legislative package. In it, we're encouraging water management districts to encourage localities to use more reclaim water. Reclaim water is a great thing. Water golf courses, water yards, make that easier for people to get access to. And then we made it easier for DEP to review new septic type systems, new wastewater systems, and approve those quicker. So as homes are being built where maybe there's not wastewater available, we're trying to get septic tanks out of the ground. But there are some advanced wastewater septic systems that we're trying to be able to prove those faster and get those to the market to probably help with more home construction. There was some legislation that didn't pass that you may have heard me talk about. Sovereign immunity, that comes back every year. I do anticipate that coming back again. County commissioner term limits, and there was a government accountability bill that was pretty burdensome on local governments. They should have to meet certain things for having lobbyist registrations and website things. And then there was a bill proposed that would repeal your business taxes. So I don't know if High Springs has one, but you charge a business tax. There was a bill proposed that would take that out altogether. That didn't make it through, but I do anticipate that coming back in the future, so something to watch. That sums it up for me. Any questions from anybody?
You had a slide on here, Andrew, House Bill 7013 on special districts that you didn't talk about up here.
Oh,
don't think.
I put that on there for the counties, so it wasn't in there, because I do represent one or two counties, but I'll tell you a little bit about that. There are some special districts that have some bad actors and some accountability, and so I think that limited the amount of folks, the term limits for the special district commissioners. I can't remember the exact details off the top of my head, but I don't think that's more for like mosquito control districts, those kind of special districts.
So this would not have anything to do with community development districts?
I will double check and get you an
Is
answer for that.
that might
Yeah,
impact
yeah,
us.
I will get you an answer for that. Sorry that I,
Oh, that's
and
okay.
it's totally blanked on my mind
No,
because I reviewed it before I
fine.
went up here. I'll
Okay.
get you, and I'll email it to you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions?
No question.
All right.
Thank you for what you've done.
You're welcome. Thank y'all for allowing me to represent you. I've greatly enjoyed working with y'all.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we have presentation on sewer system and lift station pumps and generators.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know it says presentation on sewer systems, but I'll be doing that at a later date. And I will give you a brief update on a few of our projects we have going around town. The first one is the sewer system expansion and the wetlands. And both of those projects are on schedule, and they're doing pretty good. If y'all haven't been out there, the sewer expansion is, the whole outside is done, the exterior, and they're working currently on the inside walls. And on the wetlands, they are 40% complete, because it's pretty much a big pond. So most of the work is digging it out. And they do have three sinkholes that they got to repair. And there's been change orders on that. Today, they started on basins 1 and 2, and hopefully by next week, they'll have that done. And then they'll start on basins 3, which is a sinkhole that they'll start next week, hopefully. And next project, the lift station pumps. We ordered 6 of them, and what we're going to do is get those in and get every lift station where they have 2 lift station pumps in it, and then we'll assess the rest and get those lift station pumps in when we get the first ones in. The generators, we have 6 of them that we bought currently, and they're all supposed to be natural gas, but only 3 of them will be and can be. That's Bailey Estates, Weston Oaks, and Oak Ridge. And the other 3, there's the main lift station, Cinnamon Hill, and Ashton Ridge. Those will be converted to propane. And then my favorite is Cox, which that's not really our project, but it's affected us. So they're about 90% complete. And they have the main areas, Cinnamon Hill and Southside. And they should be done in about 2 months, hopefully. Yeah, well, they're doing a lot better now. I mean, our locator finally smiled for once, so.
That's good news. So on the lift stations, they're going to have to be moved over to propane.
Yes,
When?
3 of them.
How do we have any idea of how much that's going to cost?
We do we're working on it right now.
Okay.
We're getting all the quotes in, and then we will move forward once we get that.
Okay. Okay. And natural gas, do we know how long it'll be
Well, they
before
already
it's
have the
here?
natural gas at the locations. So
Good.
now they just got to install the meters and then turn them on.
That's good news.
Yep.
Okay.
How did we end up doing with the pumps? Was our 30-day contract that was on, or did we?
Nothing costs extra.
Nothing stayed
They
the
honored
same?
the price.
bid?
Good.
It's
Awesome.
exactly what
That's
it
good
said.
news.
Good deal.
Good.
Great.
That's good.
'Cause I was afraid that was going to change after so
No,
many days.
they held the price. Actually, the prices changed in January, and we got those quotes in October. They held them all the way till now.
That's
so,
nice. That's good.
Yeah.
They didn't have to.
Correct. They did.
Very nice. Yeah.
So, any more questions? Good.
In terms of the sinkholes,
Okay.
what's the engineer's plan to mitigate future potential sinkholes out there? Because I know in the spray field, there's always sinkholes opening up in the spray field.
Correct.
it's a little
That's-
less impactful to deal with it out there than it will be in an infiltrated wetland.
That's a good question. I can't answer that, but I can
Okay.
get you the answers for that.
Okay,
so.
thank you, I appreciate
All right.
it.
How are they dealing with the sinkhole? What are they doing to fill it? How does that process, are you aware of that? Because I don't know, I'd like to know.
They're filling it with some type of material. I can get
Pumping
that
it
for you,
in?
too. Yes.
Okay,
Yep. And like the first two, once they fill them, they'll be done and they have a liner on those two basins. So they'll put the liner on. The third one now, they're gonna fill that one and they actually have to pressure test it
okay,
because it's not gonna have a liner, so.
good deal.
So the third one, is it operating in series or how is that
I believe
one?
it's a series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that the rib? That's what can be effectively the rapid
It's got
infiltration
some-
basin?
It's supposed to just seep down slowly. They're
Okay.
gonna put a bunch of materials together that allows it to go down slower than, normal.
Okay. And we have a sinkhole there now, or no?
Yeah, there is. That's the third one, yeah. There's 3 change orders so far.
Okay.
So,
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right, on to unfinished business. Item number 1. Discuss, consider, and act on ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 10 alcoholic beverages of the High Springs Code of Ordinances, providing for a special permit application process for businesses deriving less than 51% of their revenue from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages who desire to be open outside of the hours prescribed in Section 10-2D of the City of High Springs Code of Ordinances. Now, I have a number of letters here that I would like to read because people have submitted them and asked that they be read, and we'll certainly do that. I would like to ask, if possible, if we stick to the 3-minute time limit tonight on this, because I know a lot of people want to speak. Normally, we like to try to give a little bit of leeway there, but I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak their piece. And let's just make sure we remember that this is a we conversation, not an us and them. We need to work on this together as a community. So I would ask that everybody, be respectful and, listen to every opinion with an open heart and an open mind, and we certainly are going to do that as well. So I guess I'll start with reading these letters. Do you have anything else to say, Mr. Walker?
Whenever you'd like, I'll go ahead and read the title of the ordinance, whenever you're
Please, go
ready
ahead.
for that.
Yeah, please, go ahead. Yes, please.
I'm happy to do that, Madam Mayor. This is ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 10 alcoholic beverages of the City of High Springs Code of Ordinances, providing for a special permit application process for businesses deriving less than 51% of their revenue from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages who desire to be open outside the hours prescribed in Section 10-2, subparagraph D of the City of High Springs Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for codification. Madam Mayor, the appropriate motion at the appropriate time is to pass. You can delay it to a date certain in the future, or you can table it on that second option, or deny ordinance number 2024-03 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you gentlemen are okay, I'll read these letters. I'm going to read them in the order that they were up here. Dear Commissioners, Red Bricks and Wildlife, or beer bottles and amplifiers. We write to you with one voice shared by many of your downtown and surrounding city residents. Residents who have not, to this point, had an opportunity to have a voice in the governmental process concerning the alcohol and noise ordinance. We ask that before you even consider any changes to the alcohol ordinance, that you table it and first take into consideration all of the neighbors that surround these downtown establishments. We have noticed a direct correlation between these establishments with alcohol and extremely loud, over-amplified music. It is disturbing to many individuals, families, infants, pets, and wildlife in the vicinity of downtown. Yes, it is that loud. It is so loud it is affecting the quality of life of citizens, pets, and wildlife surrounding these establishments. If it's bad now, what will it be like when more of these types of establishments open and start playing outside amplified music with no restraints and no enforcement of noise levels? Will the City Commission continue keeping their heads in the sand, rubber stamping approvals of changes to ordinances that were designed to protect us? Repeating the mantra of bringing in more money with more alcohol sales and more loud amplified music, showing absolutely no consideration for the quality of life issue of residents. Yes, it is a quality of life issue and out of character with existing neighborhoods. Some of us have lived here long before any of these businesses even existed. Many other communities have banned the outside use of amplified music for the very same reason we have mentioned. St. George Street and St. Augustine, for example. Gainesville also has an out-of-control problem with downtown battles between homeowners and bars over loud events and over-amplified bar music, with sometimes hundreds of noise complaints to police nightly. Do we want that here? It's coming if there aren't changes, we can assure you. We're asking you to show some foresight and concern on this outside amplified noise issue and consider your duties to residents. Please don't continue accepting the slogan that it will bring more money to town. Lots of things can and do bring money to town that doesn't automatically make it acceptable. For example, would legalized prostitution bring more money to town? Probably. I don't believe money is a valid reason to approve such unreasonable activities, at the cost of creating quality of life issues for so many of us. With unbearable levels of amplified music, I can assure you if you don't deal with the problem now, it will become more problematic later. If you approve Sunday sales or change the existing alcohol ordinance, I can almost assure you there will be no more quiet Sundays, no day of rest, no peace and quiet for downtown neighbors. Loud amplified music with alcohol will proliferate and prevail all day long, as they seem to travel together hand in hand. Another venue when there is a problem is Ginny Springs. On a weekend, if you haven't experienced yet, I suggest you go experience it for yourself. If you change the alcohol ordinance, we ask that you change the noise ordinance at the same time, or you may find you have created an avenue far more out of control, loud outside amplified music and the yelling and screaming that often accompanies it. People, pets, and wildlife should count for something, or at least count for more than trading dollar bills for loud, over-amplified music. It's our homes, our way of life that you are allowing to be destroyed. People, pets, and wildlife alike. In-house amps, directed speakers, maybe. Bottom line, just regulate and turn down the volume. Enjoy our good nature, say you. Well, then, just do the right thing. We like our red bricks and wildlife. And I'm not going to, people have sent this in with their names on it, and I don't want to call out names because I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable on either side of the, do you want me to read, you want me to read the names? Okay. The undersigned: Darlene Bond, Alice Brown, Janet Evans, Bob Jones, Linda Jones, Diane Shoup, Ed Shoup, John Sturpey, along with the cries of those who have no voice. To the Honorable Mayor Catherine Weitz. In 2015, our Honorable Commissioners enacted Ordinance 2015-3, which lifted the restriction on the type of alcohol on Sunday, on-premise consumption at businesses that derives at least 51% of their gross revenues from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages. This was a great family-oriented ordinance. To preserve the characteristics of our city as intended by all in 2015, I urge you not to enact the proposed Ordinance 2024-03. This proposed ordinance opens up the doors for citywide non-family venues without the condition of at least 51% gross revenues from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages. I realize this impacts only one business, but what are the other businesses that are waiting in the wings to come in and make this city a party central? I'm also opposed to an entertainment district, which would require more city resources, police and trash pickup, and who knows what else to maintain the district. Next, you will find a request for a proposed ordinance to have open containers in an entertainment district is created. The party goers utilizing an open container provision will be roaming our streets, our city, without respect for any property. They literally will be peeing when and wherever the urge hits them. This has been found in other entertainment districts which were created. Our development within the city dictates a family-oriented atmosphere, due to the families with young children moving in. Let's keep the original ordinance as it was intended. Respectfully submitted, Darlene Bond. I am sending this email in hopes that you will consider allowing High Springs Brewing Company to be open every Sunday. This business has done so much for our community and is such an asset to all of the other businesses and complements the unique, quaint nature of our town. The below are the reasons I support HSBC and opening on Sundays. Number one, they support our community and give back at every opportunity. Number two, this facility is very family-oriented, giving those who would like to go out and enjoy the sunshine and the outdoors an opportunity to do so without making the kids sit still and be quiet. I derive so much enjoyment seeing the kids running around and making friends here. Number three, HSBC brings in so many people to town who might not like to go to a bar/restaurant but would like to have a softer alternative, such as a beer, and visit a food truck or other food business. I have met many people who came to the brewery for an event and decide to visit our stores, our springs, our Airbnbs, or return and visit again. I have heard many reasons for the denial, including religious reasons, traffic, and noise. I disagree with all of those reasons and do not see or hear any direct correlation to the brewery. Religious reasons should not even be a consideration, due to a separation of church and state and the fact that Sundays is not the only day considered a holy day to all religions. Also, as an evangelical Christian myself, I have no problem with what others choose to eat or drink as long as what others choose to do does not affect me or my children, and someone choosing to go to a brewery and have a beer does in no way affect myself or my children. We can choose to go or not. We can choose to partake or not, except on Sunday when that choice is not given to anyone. Traffic. Well, we all know we have a traffic issue on Main Street, with it being 2 lanes without a turn lane at the light. However, since a brewery sits on a side street that can be accessed without adding to the Main Street congestion, I see this as a non-issue. As population in the town and surrounding areas grow, traffic will be a problem regardless of the brewery being open an extra day. Now, the latest weapon in the anti-brewery arsenal is noise. I have been to all of the venues in High Springs that have live music. The HSBC is set further back from homes, more so than any other venue that plays music in our area. When you are at the brewery, the music is not too loud to allow talking, hearing at a conversational level, and on weekends always shuts down by 10 p.m. Other venues in the city are much louder. However, if you buy a home in downtown, you should expect some noise. The worst is the exhaust of those obnoxious trucks that circle the downtown area over and over again, or even the fire station trucks, same area. On Sundays, noise should be a non-issue as, again, music is not too loud to be heard when talking in a normal tone at the brewery, and the majority of homeowners are not trying to sleep during daytime hours. I feel that the city businesses lose out on revenue when visitors realize that they can't go to the brewery on a Sunday. I have overheard many conversations from visitors saying they won't be back to special events on a Sunday as the brewery is closed, and there is not alcohol served anywhere else until 1 p.m. I have actually seen people leave establishments when they have been told they can't serve alcohol until 1 p.m. They then ask about the brewery, and when told they aren't open on Sunday, they leave town to search somewhere else that they can have a beverage. I have heard this is not allowed because of the 51% rule. If this is the reason that this is in place, then I feel like all of the other establishments that serve alcohol, hard liquor, not just beer, and that are allowed to be open on Sunday should have to prove that 51% of their weekly intake is from food. I'm guessing that a few in particular are not meeting that threshold. This should be scheduled on a regular basis. Otherwise, you are showing preference to certain businesses by allowing them to be open without the proof that the ordinance requires. I'm unable to attend the meeting tonight, but wanted to let you all know that I wholeheartedly support the HSBC being open on Sunday, and I hope you all keep an open mind and think about how much good this business has brought to our community. Before the brewery, there was no place for those that don't drink hard liquor to get together with their friends and community members, to meet new friends, and to allow their children to make new friends and play along with other community members' kids. It is a great gathering place for the sharing of ideas and promotes a sense of community. Please allow the brewery to open on Sunday. Best regards, Heather Hope. And this says, I would like my comments read at the meeting tonight in the case of my absence due to a late meeting I am having at work. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, and City Commissioners for allowing me to speak on behalf of a contingent of citizens that are here to address the ordinance concerning alcohol sales on Sunday. Firstly, I must admit I've been reluctant to get involved in this discussion. However, after giving this some thought, I feel the need to apply some common sense to this somewhat sensitive issue. Wayne, I would like to personally thank you for stepping in like you did and not allowing the sale of alcohol on Sundays if the business didn't serve or didn't receive 51% of its revenues from food sales. You are correct when you made the statement that allowing this was wrong according to the current ordinance. And as you stated, why would we continue to do wrong? Right is right, wrong is wrong. Both values we were both raised with. You put a stop to it, and I commend you for making such a bold decision as a newly elected city official. I believe the common sense motto is what you ran your campaign on, right? Correct? Secondly, that leads me to why the majority of us that support the brewery are here tonight. We feel it's time to change the ordinance or do away with it entirely. Allowing the brewery to be open with a food truck on site isn't any different than allowing other restaurants such as the Watershed and the Great Outdoors, El Patio, and the Pink Flamingo from being open at the same time, essentially doing the same thing. There is no mechanism in place to monitor how much food or alcohol is served at any of these venues. The percentage of food sales should have nothing to do with any ordinance concerning alcohol sales. Having food available should be sufficient enough to be open and serve beer and or wine. The other establishments that I mentioned also serve hard liquor, and the brewery does not. Finally, tonight, I would like for the commission to make a motion to amend this ordinance to state alcohol sales can only be sold on Sunday if food is offered on site at the establishment. With no way to regulate what % of each item is sold on the establishment's respective menu, there's no purpose in having the 51% in the ordinance. As a lifelong citizen, I thank you for your time this evening, and I appreciate the work you do for this great community that we live in. Respectfully, Arthur P. Withy. Dear members of the City Commission, I am writing to express my support for the elimination of special use permits for Sunday activities in our community. As a resident who values the importance of leisure and recreational activities on weekends, I believe that removing this requirement would benefit both our residents and local businesses. Currently, obtaining a special use permit for Sunday activities can be a cumbersome and time-consuming process, only benefiting nonprofit organizations and often discouraging individuals and businesses from organizing events and activities on this day. By eliminating this requirement, we can encourage more community engagement and promote a vibrant and lively atmosphere in our town on Sundays. Furthermore, allowing Sunday activities to take place without the need for a special use permit would reduce administrative burden on the city. I urge the City Commission to consider the potential benefits of eliminating special use permits for Sunday activities and to take action to make our town more welcoming and inclusive for all residents and visitors, providing equal access to every Sunday. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Ivy Barron. My name is Mark Womack. I am writing in support of the revision of City Code to allow non-restaurant related alcohol sales, also referred to as the 51% rule, on Sunday in the City of High Springs. Due to a previous commitment, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting. I am asking that this letter be read aloud during the open comment period of the Commission meeting or when appropriate. I have lived just outside of the city limits for the past 18 years. My children are both graduates of the High Springs Community School and Santa Fe High School. Over the years, I have coached numerous kids in the High Springs Recreational Soccer League. Simply speaking, I have not been here my whole life, but I've been around. As citizens and commissioners, you are all aware that this topic has been feverishly discussed over the past few years. Often this discussion is centered on the business activities of the High Springs Brewing Company. Given this, my commentary in this letter will be focused on their organization. My family has had the opportunity to enjoy the family atmosphere of the brewery since their second day of being open. We have stopped by midday on a weekend, and we have been there in the evening. During these times, we have witnessed bake sales, community events, fundraisers, birthday parties, celebrations of life, and many up-and-coming musicians, one of which has now shared a stage with Zach Brown. What we have never experienced is a negative or threatening atmosphere or a situation where a person might not feel welcome. Professionally, I have spent 30 years in public safety. This includes 26 years as a sworn law enforcement officer. My experience qualifies the observations that were made during my aforementioned experiences and are not unique to my family. On any given day, except Sunday, customers of the brewery enjoy the harmonious environment that exists there. The brewery is the only business within the city limits that is restricted from conducting their normal business operations on Sunday. It is incredulous that a city that prides itself on inclusion and community involvement would, in 2024, have legal restrictions in place that actively work against that. Understandably, waivers have been issued in the past. However, the most recent denial of a permit to open during Pioneer Days only identifies that process is only subjective in nature. It is time for the City of High Springs to embrace change. It's time for the City Council to recognize that they have the power to provide the inclusion that the citizens desire. It is time for the brewery to be allowed to conduct business on Sundays, as all others have been allowed to do. Respectfully, Mark Womack. Dear City Commissioners and Manager, I moved to High Springs just last summer because I fell in love with Rio, Florida, the springs and the community. It reminds me of home, but with bluer skies and warmer weather. I lived my whole life in a town like this and recall these exact moments of change like this as well. This town is capable of retaining its old-fashioned place while having modern grace. I'm writing to implore you all to allow the High Springs Brewery to become open on Sundays. I moved here alone and applied for a job there, and they, the owners and their families, have made me their family. I have found a place in this community through them and my work there. I have met the greatest of people. I could go on and on about all the kinds of things the brewery does for people and what a great place it is not only to work, but for families of any age, gender, or religious orientation to come together and feel safe, hang out, play, meet up, and enjoy life in the great outdoors in Rio, Florida. But not only all of this, but the importance of a place such as this invites revenues for the whole city of High Springs. We have cave divers from all over the world, nature lovers who visit, and they love our little brewery to hang out and unwind after morning in the water and eat pizza from Prohibition Pizza while they have a beer. High qualified filtered water, clean water, by the way, another topic the city should invest in, while their children and dogs play and take in the day. The locals and their kids feel at home with us. We all look out for each other. Times have changed. Insurance, taxes, food and gas, and more have all inflated. Allowing us to be open gives our employees a day to add more money for their families, your tax dollars, and for the brewery itself to give what the community as a whole, including our visiting friends, what they desire. There would be no regret in allowing us to do business on Sundays. We are a small group of employees and owners and all of our families, but each one of us singly and as a whole are a positive light in this community, and the city will only continue to benefit from our presence. Feel free to share my comments in your meeting if you wish, and I will also copy this to all the commissioners. Thank you for your service and your time, and please come meet me at the brewery sometimes. I always have a smile because I love my High Springs Brewing people, customers in this town. Sincerely, Joni K. And I think that's all of the letters.
Angela, we received more letters than that. Were they just not sent to you?
These are the ones that specifically asked we read them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You should have one from the director of Creative Gainesville.
That's the one that's
Okay,
one of the ones I was referring to, yeah.
Did that one, did they ask that be read at the meeting? Do you have it?
This was also asked to be read aloud.
Okay.
This is from Alice Brown. I'm Alice Brown, and my family and I live 100 yards from the brewery. About the Sunday alcohol ordinance. We see the issue from a personal viewpoint, how it will affect us, not how it will affect the town. We want you to know that personally, we don't mind at all if the brewery is allowed to be open on Sundays. I've never heard my neighbors complain about the brewery. You have a tough decision to make. Not everyone will be happy, and we'll all have to live with the results. But I have no doubt that you'll handle this responsibly with the same level of excellence you always do. Thanks for your service. Same one. I don't know, I have like 50, so bear with me, please. Ooh, that's a long one. You want this one?
If it was asked to be read at the meeting, I think it should be read at the meeting. I just didn't have it here. So if it says, please read it,
It
we
says
should.
letter to be included in upcoming decision involving High Springs Brewery. That's,
Does it say to read it at the meeting? Because that's important. If it does, we need to read it, I think.
it doesn't, but that's from the Created Gainesville. I think that would be important. I mean, I think that the letter to be included would be kind of,
Okay.
read it. I'll give that to you. You read so eloquently.
Dear High Springs City Commission, I hope this letter finds you well. I would like to request that my letter is read aloud. Look at, there it is, right there. Read aloud at the upcoming meeting to decide the outcome of High Springs Brewing Company's hours and days of operation. I'm writing to express my deepest support for the High Springs Brewing Company to be allowed to operate on Sundays and any day of the week. I was honestly surprised to hear that there has been an issue around this decision for as long as there has been, especially considering all that the brewery brings to High Springs as a community and what all businesses have been through over the past couple of years that have caused many treasured local businesses to have to permanently close their doors. That the brewery is still open and that customers are willing to travel from Gainesville and other surrounding areas to be a patron means they are doing something right and the community values what they offer. My hope is to bring clarity to some of the things High Springs Brewing Company brings to our community that everyone on the commission and at this meeting may not be aware of. The reason being that what they do and how they operate is rare and yet so very important and needed to make a community better. The owners and staff of the High Springs Brewing Company create an environment of love, kindness, and community support. As a founder of a local nonprofit organization aimed at combating sex trafficking, I have been amazed and in awe of how much support this business offers to those who are most vulnerable, in need, and hurting. I reached out to the owners last year because we had hit a really rough financial patch as an organization and needed help. Mind you, they were on family vacation when I called them. As soon as they returned home, they let me know there was a donation ready for pickup. At the same time, they acknowledged what a hard financial season it had been for them with COVID and the current economic climate. I only share this because they had every reason to tell me that it wasn't the right time for them to be generous, but this is who they are. They are people of sacrificial generosity to their core. The brewery also has requested and hung our awareness posters around their tap room and in their restroom stalls, just in case there's someone that needs our support, either directly or for a loved one who has experienced the most extreme forms of trauma as a result of being trafficked and or sexually exploited. They frequently share about our mission on their social media platforms in order to raise awareness and rally support for our much-needed services in North Central Florida. Through their leadership and authentic example, they are rewriting the narrative around this issue, how survivors are seen and treated, and how youth are getting access to prevention opportunities. Lastly, the High Springs Brewing Company has hosted full-day vendor events when they could profit the most personally, but instead they have donated 100% of the vendor fees to our organization and have fostered a spirit of community generosity among their customers. The kinds of conversations I have had at these events from customers who are moved to tears from hope, gratitude, and from lived experiences that make our mission personal have left me so full of hope of what can happen when just one local business makes much of doing good in their community over profit. I can say as well that we are not the only local nonprofit that they support in this way. I have personally watched them host events for other worthy causes, including foster care, school programs, families in need, etc. The High Springs Brewing Company is worth protecting and supporting through increasing their permitting days of operation. Without this additional day, they are at greater risk of losing their trusted staff who need hours and livable wage, as well as risking their ability to be sustainable in today's financial climate. As someone who has seen their impact, I can say that we desperately need businesses like the High Springs Brewing Company who stand for what is right, good, and noble in our community, and in so doing, give a voice to those who historically are not seen, understood, or treated with compassion and opportunities to heal, thrive, and overcome. Thank you for reading my letter and taking what I have shared into consideration. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to reach out to me. Warm regards, Allison Ungaro. There's much conversation to be had, I'm certain, but I think it's really important that we recognize that this ordinance in no way impugns or implies anything about the character of any of the business owners. This is an ordinance that's been on the books for a long time, and the fact of the matter is that the brewery had been open on certain Sundays by special permit application when the ordinance that's on the books did not allow for that. So what we're trying to do here is find a path that makes some allowance, that maybe find some compromise, but the ordinance was not being followed. So we're trying to make sure that we are doing it the right way. We have been called cowards. We have been told that we should be ashamed. I offer no shame to trying to do this the right way. We're trying to follow the rules. Anybody who's watching this meeting, they're always looking for something where you might mess up and maybe they could sue. That's just our reality, unfortunately. We're trying to do it the right way. And this ordinance only applies to one business, but this ordinance was in place prior to that business coming here. This ordinance is not targeting them. It just so happens that they're the only ones that are impacted by it. They knew that when they opened, though. So we're not targeting a business, and we are not saying they are not good members of the community and don't bring a lot to our downtown. They do. Nobody has ever said anything different. So it's just, I want to make sure we hear everybody. So when you come up to speak, if the gentleman don't want to, do you guys want to say something first? Do you want to weigh in before we open up for public comment?
Let the people talk.
Are you okay with that, gentlemen? If you could, please state your name, and we are going to limit it to 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to speak. And, please just be respectful. So feel free to come on.
I have never come up here to speak before, but I feel strongly about this. I'm an older, long-term citizen. I've lived in Alachua County most of my life. I've lived in High Springs the last 40 years. I usually watch the meetings on Facebook, but I felt this was important. I'm not much of a drinker, so when I go to the brewery, I go for the live music and the food trucks. I usually have a drink or bring friends who will, and then I leave them a good tip. I have never seen anyone there that seemed overserved or rowdy. I've seen kids who didn't previously know each other playing together and having a lot of non-electronic fun. The noise and traffic arguments on social media are ridiculous. I don't understand what makes their noise and traffic different from the other establishments who are allowed to be open on Sundays. They're allowed thumping trucks that go by my house all hours of the night, and even the shootouts at Pioneer Day can be heard for blocks away. The serving alcohol on Sundays ordinance needs to be updated, period. Food should not be part of it. There are plenty of people at the restaurants downtown who sit at their bars where hard liquor is served and drink without consuming food, even though it is available. The High Springs Brewing Company almost always has a food truck on premises, and when they don't, the pizza place is just a few feet away. And I actually stopped at the High Springs, or the Station Bakery, and picked up meatloaf dinners and took with me Friday so I could go listen to the band. As other people have voiced on social media, not everyone observes the same Sabbath, so Sunday afternoons shouldn't be banned at one establishment because I'm a Baptist. It's my choice whether I go there on Sunday or not. We have a diverse population in our city now, and all of our citizens and their livelihoods should be taken into consideration. It shouldn't require a special permit acted on by a few people for one business to be able to operate as the businesses around them. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Peter Corey, and actually, I did not come to speak on this at all, but sitting back there and listening to this, there's one thing I want to mention. Even though it was on the books before and it only impacts one business, is anyone measuring that 51%? Because there may be other businesses that are actually below that and should be closed on Sunday, but somehow are grandfathered in because they serve food instead of having food trucks. So that's all I'm saying is, and I love the brewery, by the way. It is fun. We've always had a great time there. But it's a hard decision on your part. But if you're setting a criteria of 51%, it really needs to be measured then. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Lynch. I just have to say that the High Springs Brewing Company is basically a wonderful organization. They work tirelessly with the High Springs Women's Club on every occasion that we plan, and they are the hosts. Well, we are the hosts over there, but they allow us to come in and do our for the different celebrations. St. Patrick's Day, for whatever, I can't name them all, but they have always been there and worked with us. So this business of them not being allowed to be open on Sunday is ridiculous, because people with their dogs, they bring their dogs, the dogs are playing with each other, the kids have a marvelous time, and I have never seen anybody overly drinking, and my husband and I, we're frequent, other than at the women's club too. Well, not frequent, but yeah, we enjoy going over there. As far as the noise level, there is more noise coming from the Pink Flamingo, coming from the Great Outdoors, and also coming from the bike track. I'm on 244, and that's what I'm hearing, is the other noises in town. I never hear anything from the brewery. So I think this thing is passé and it needs to be updated.
My name is Mel Campos. I have been a resident of High Springs for 11 years, and in that time, I have watched my neighborhood and this community grow to include many new businesses, celebrations, and challenges. High Springs is unique in that it appeals to many as a quiet, safe, supportive community, while simultaneously offering a vibrant array of creative and natural outlets for artists, for families, for adventure seekers. I myself am a volunteer board member and frequent actor on stage at the High Springs Playhouse just down the street. Over the past 5 years, it has been an absolute honor to include the High Springs Brewing Company in this community. Several times a year, they host events where I can find locally made crafts and art that enable me to connect with small businesses and local artists and become less reliant on national and foreign chain stores. These make for the most endearing and beloved gifts for all occasions while strengthening my bonds with people who share this beautiful space. After a great performance at the Playhouse, and even after the ones that fell completely flat, or maybe especially because of the ones that fell completely flat, my favorite way to unwind is to gather with the cast and crew at the brewery to share the experience together, to go over our highs and lows, to meet up with patrons who just enjoyed the show, and to spread the word about what we're doing down the street with locals and visitors who are unaware. Although I should clarify, we do this after some performances. We are not able to gather there for these vital debrief sessions on Sundays because the brewery is not allowed to be open. That's a third of our performances. For an entire third of our performances, we all take our bows, go our separate ways until the next show. Sometimes we go out of town where we can gather more freely. Sometimes we visit a local restaurant, of which there are many, where we can, incidentally, purchase alcohol, but gathering a decent crowd at a restaurant becomes cost prohibitive very quickly. It puts pressure on many who don't wish to order food and comes with limitations on how much time we can spend together. When we meet at a place like the brewery, we often end up there after visiting these restaurants first. As you can imagine, a group of 10 or more people don't necessarily all want the same food and definitely have varying budgets. We support our local small businesses and gather at a common open location to break bread together, except on Sundays. To be clear, the laws preventing, or I should say the ordinance preventing the brewery from opening on Sundays does not prevent anyone from drinking. There are restaurants where anyone can still do that. It doesn't prevent anyone from buying or selling alcohol. It doesn't prevent people from consuming alcohol. And it doesn't prevent us from making choices about the role alcohol plays in our lives. It only serves to target one locally family-owned small business from operating over half of the weekend. A year and a half ago, I suffered very serious health concerns wherein I made a choice to spend 12 months of sobriety, changing my diet and lifestyle to become healthier so I can enjoy many more years with my family. If you think a local brewery wouldn't be one of the biggest supporters of my sobriety during that time, then you are disconnected from reality of this community. They welcomed me and encouraged me, and I apologize, I am wrapping up. They expanded their non-alcoholic beverages. They offered an incredible array of activities to keep my family engaged in moving our bodies while challenging our minds. They continue to be a destination of growth and bonding, a place that fosters support for the arts and the artists. They are a hub where my children are offered the freedom to explore festivals and local shops, to venture out for ice cream, to take our dog for a tour of the area, and to know that there is a safe place for them to return when they are satisfied, except on Sundays.
My name is Linda Jones. First of all, I would like to see something done about the letters being sent to the commissioners and read at the commission meetings. I think we need to do a more in-depth reasoning. Why should I bother to get in my car and come down here and speak to whatever issue I want to, when all I have to do is send a letter to the commissioners and ask that it be read? I mean, we've spent, 45 minutes listening to letters being read? I'm sorry. I know there are exceptions to this when somebody's ill, when they're handicapped, but I don't think anybody can say they're unavailable to attend the meeting. My gosh. So I would like to see, as a citizen, something done about that. Also, when the brewery hosts all of these wonderful events, and I agree that they do they close their bar during these sessions? Do they not make money during these events? So it's not as if, it's like a win-win for them. They can support the community and they can also support themselves. So it's not a total from the heart type thing that they do when they support these events. Again, I appreciate what they do for that, but it's not a total hand washing on that. Thank you. And it was under 3 minutes.
Good evening, City of High Springs. My name is Michaela Rollerson, and I work down the street at Prohibition Pizza, conveniently right across the street from High Springs Brewery. Most people work during the weekdays, which leaves the weekends as the days off for family and friends to spend time together. On Saturdays, I look over and smile, so happy to see children and teenagers playing soccer at the brewery with their family, or even friends getting together and sharing laughter, pizza, and beer. Then on Sundays, business for not only Prohibition Pizza, but for other surrounding businesses, it's really a drag. The town is quiet. Quite frankly, the brewery brings business to all of High Springs, and I'm sure almost all business owners would agree. We are the only city out of surrounding cities who cannot sell alcohol until 1 o'clock, and the brewery can't be open at all. To the government of High Springs, we are supposed to be led and build up our city and make it an amazing place for families, which would bring business to small business owners, which, mind you, High Springs is made up of small businesses. But instead, you are making it a one-day town. Prohibition Pizza does a lot for this community, such as hold events, allow discounts for our local fire and police department. We hold meetings for the council and nonprofit groups, and also provide food with no cost. The brewery shows movies, allows small food truck owners to come and sell their food as an opportunity for businesses. Yet, what do we get? City law stating we can't sell a beverage until 1 o'clock, and our dear friends at the brewery are not allowed to open. Whether there's an event on Sunday or not, which brings slow business to Prohibition Pizza, which not only affects our business, but it affects our staff because we are forced to send our staff home due to business being so slow. The businesses around here do a lot for this community, but we are questioning, when are we going to get something in return? We no longer live in the Prohibition era. Let's get back in the 20th century. There was once someone who wrote this law. There is surely somebody who can dispose of it. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, Sue Weller. I am in support of the brewery being open on Sunday. However, in reading the ordinance, there are some questions that I have that I think need to be answered or clarified. On the ordinance, it specifies that if the special permit is applied for in connection with a city-sponsored event or a federal holiday, it shall be subject to administrative approval, which is fine. However, what is a city-sponsored event? The chamber events, are they all considered city-sponsored events? What is the definition of a city-sponsored event? The other thing is a federal holiday. Most federal holidays are on a Monday, so will the brewery be prevented from being open on Sunday because the federal holiday is on a Monday? The other issue is on the other provision that where it would come before you as a commission. If the brewery knows that they're going to have an event or would like to have an event or several events throughout the year, would they be allowed to submit those special permits at one time to you? Or are they going to have to come to you individually? Is there a lead time that's going to be expected for them to submit that event? These are some questions that I have that I think need to be answered along with what's going on here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dana Pascarella. I own a home here in the city limits. One of the reasons that I purchased a home here was because I came through downtown and it was vibrant, and we have the arts here, and we have mom and pop restaurants with live music. That was one of the main reasons. And I'm not going to waste your time reiterating how wonderful the brewery people are. We all know that. I think that they're wonderful people because they are, not because they're trying to get a benefit from it. One of my biggest things with them being open on a Sunday is it's a place for families to go. The kids go there and there's other children to play with. A lot of us live in rural areas. There's no kids around. They go to the brewery and they have children to play with over there. I realize some of you, for whatever your personal reasons, don't wish to partake on a Sunday at the brewery. I get it. Those are your personal reasons, and I think you need to think about setting those personal reasons aside and look at what goes on in the community, what they do for the community, what they can even more do if they were open on Sundays and gave a safe space for families to go to, for tourists to come in and not want to leave on a Saturday night because there's nothing to do here for them on a Sunday. And I have one last thing to say. Madam Mayor, twice now you've asked people to be respectful, And it really bothered me when I heard you at the last meeting. I didn't attend in person, but you said if your son was 10 years old, you would not take him to the brewery. And I think that that was hurtful, and I think that that was shameful on your part to make a statement like that, especially when you ask people to come here and be respectful. They are a great family. They're an amazing family. And I'm not an alcoholic. I don't really drink very much, but it's a fun place to go. And I have never felt uncomfortable taking my grandchildren there, ever. Thank you.
David Lynch, the World Health Organization, which is part of the United Nations, estimates that alcoholic beverages kill 8,000 people each day and account for 5% of the world's disease burden. So do the commissioners want a business in High Springs that uses the High Springs name to promote a product that kills 8,000 people each day?
Bob Watson. First of all, the ordinance, what I heard, needs to be changed. It needs to be open on Sundays, set the hours and times for everybody, every business. I know that the attorney gets his directions from the commissioners, and basically they dictate to him what they want, him the right. He works for them, so he's going to do it. Let's turn the clock back for a minute. Let's go back to 1890. We weren't here. But you know what happened on the weekends? The railroad people got there, just came by. What did they do? They drank. Back then it was whiskey, okay? So that. Number two, I called the chief of police. I said, how many in the last 5 years the brewery's been in business have there been DUIs arrests related to the brewery? I'm going to tell you. Everybody see that? I was told that in 5 years. People don't go there to get drunk. I'm meeting a bunch of group events because it's a great meeting place for vets that we can do that is affordable, and if they want to get a beer or a glass of wine, they can do it and discuss. I've been there when bands are playing. You can talk to the person next to you. I've seen the number of boxes on picnic tables from the Probation Pizza. People are eating. Never mind the food trucks that come. So this business, well, if you don't, you got to drink, you got to eat something, is bull. People aren't going there to get drunk. People are there to have a beer, period, enjoy themselves. They walk their dogs. They'll jump in and have a beer. So what the hell's wrong with that? Why can't we work with this community, Mayor? You said, oh, it's all work together.
Sir,
I'm
please.
talking. We're supposed to be
Yes,
all
sir.
working together, but it
I
doesn't
need-
appear to be that way.
Can you just please lower your voice a little bit, please, sir? I appreciate it.
We need to wake up this town and do what we need to do. There's nothing that bad. I asked them, oh, there's noise, cars. I said, well, how many of them are electric cars nowadays? Electric cars, folks, don't have loud mufflers. If you don't believe me, Google it. There's no muffler in an electric car. So where's the noise coming from? And how you know they're not an electric car or not? You don't. You don't know they're an electric car. And it's no different than someone's muffler downtown High Springs or out of town. You're going to get that regardless. It has nothing to do with the brewery. The brewery is a great place to meet for the community. Yeah, they knew when they opened up 5 years ago the law, but it's time for a change. Change the ordinance so places can be open on Sunday and serve beer. Set the hours. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I
yes,
think-
sir.
I think Mr. Watson misunderstood me.
but I don't know the specificity on any type of service calls. But I think what I did tell him that the brewery has not had a substantial impact for service calls there are in the past. So I
Thank
just
you,
wanted to
sir.
correct that.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, Kelly Potter, Probation Pizza. Probation Pizza. Bob. I'm a business person. You guys are running a business. The last meeting I spoke, I expressed how this closure affects not only the brewery, but how it affects the other members of this community. Being directly across the street, I said we are a one-day town. What did I witness at the Pioneer Festival? Once again, everybody came out for Saturday. It was a ghost town on Sunday. Catherine, you know, you were picking up trash both days. It was so quiet on Sunday. We had a $7,000 day on Saturday. We had a $2,000 day on Sunday. I had to send 6 of my staff home on Sunday. They went home. They didn't get paid for their day. These decisions to be a one-day town affect more than just the brewery. We have Airbnb owners. We have hotels, motels. They're all losing business because people don't come for the second day. I heard so many times, we're going to go on Saturday because there's not worth anything to do on Sunday in High Springs. You guys have made it that way. Scott advised, we've been doing this way. This is how we should just keep doing it. That's something that several of you have decided against. This is not prohibition. This is not about alcohol. This is not 100 years ago. This is about rewriting an ordinance or making an exception to an ordinance that is now outdated. I just implore you to consider all the people that it's affecting. And, I mean, Michaela, thank you. I mean, she's one of our youngest staff members, and for her to actually feel compelled to come up and talk, that was all of her doing. That was amazing to me, and thank you for being honest. But I just want to implore to you, there's so much more. This is such a bigger picture than just the brewery. They do amazing things too. But when we have special events like the Marines coming here on Saturday, that could very easily be on Sunday. We could make High Springs a 2-day town. And our town will only gain from that. So I just want you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Chris Mobus, one of the owners of High Springs Brewing Company. Thanks for being here with me tonight. Obviously, I don't need to summarize everything that's already been said, but Mayor, I do want to speak directly to you on a couple of things. You had mentioned, you know, in your previous statement about the ordinance, and the ordinance was in place in 2019, right? Could you agree with me that 2019, 2024 is a little bit of a different environment? From a business impact? COVID, 300% increase in property insurance, 300, 400, 500% increase in all of our goods. So can we agree here
Yeah,
that there's
the economy is rough right now.
Vastly different.
All businesses have told me they're seeing 20 to 25% less revenue.
That's the
Across the
less
board.
revenue on top of the increased cost. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we can identify and understand that what we're dealing with in 2019 when we did open. Truth be told, I didn't want to be open on Sundays. I have 2 other jobs outside of this. I want a day with my family. I have a 14 and 16-year-old son getting ready to go off to school. I could use an extra day. That's just not where we are today. It's not what the economics dictate. So I hope that you can have a little bit of empathy when it comes to understanding that hey, maybe those extra couple of hours could be the difference of us being able to make a payment on this loan or that loan. It's a big deal. No one wants to talk about the economy of this. But us being open on an extra Sunday, if you just think about it, if I make $1,000 every Sunday, do the math, 52 Sundays, that's $52,000 that we're not lining our pockets. I want to make sure that everybody understands this. we're not lining our pockets as brewery owners. Every dollar that we have made on this business has turned that sore thumb into the property it is today. We have recapitalized every dollar into that business. And so for any of you all to take that lightly or make it not a big deal, it's pretty sad. Secondly, we have some folks on this side that want to diminish what we've done for people within the communities, whether it's charities. I've never in my life met a soul that doesn't appreciate a win-win. Those were the words that were used. It's a win-win. But I'm supposed to think that that's a bad thing. And the things that we do that none of you all see, from a monetary standpoint to a support standpoint, none of you all see that, because we're not going to go spike the football about it. It's just who we are. But I can guarantee you, right here, right now, that the amount of checks that we have stroked as an organization to different charities, every hurricane that's passed since 2019, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't want anybody on this side to diminish exactly what that means. That's money that could have gone into our pocket otherwise, but it didn't. And we're not going to change who we are. And I hope you guys understand that tonight. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioner and Mayor. My name is David, and I'm a local frequent visitor of the brewery. The ordinance is in place. They have abided by the ordinance. They have asked to be open on certain Sundays, and I've seen them open, and they've been asked to be open on other Sundays and not allowed, and we're all disappointed. So it's not fair. One year you're allowed to be open for Pioneer Days, the next year you're not. There's something wrong there. The ordinance itself is outdated. Bring it up to thing, work with the community, and if the city really feels for those people on the noise and everything, then the city should help by going to the south side of the brewery on a public right-of-way, and let's put some natural landscaping in to lower the noise for those people. Thank you.
My name is Christy Ayers. I am wife to Kiffin Ayers, who makes the dreaded beer that we're speaking of and have been speaking of for 5 years. I'm also the woman that Linda Jones practically shoved out of the way to cut the ribbon at our opening. And for her and her delegates and whomever to besmirch our name for the past 5 years, and for Madam Mayor to act like we are somehow inappropriate for having people come to advocate on our behalf is nauseating.
I'm sorry, but
Oh
I
my goodness. No,
I
excuse
never
me,
said
I'm not
anybody was
through. You are
inappropriate.
interrupting me.
No, ma'am.
What you
Excuse me.
said, excuse me, it is my time.
No, and you can have your time. We'll
So
pause
you're gonna
your
extend my time is what
yes,
you're saying?
ma'am, of
Okay.
course, we will pause your time. I have never said that anybody was inappropriate for coming here to advocate on your behalf.
You started this meeting with an indicator that people were being disrespectful before this conversation even started. For 5 years, I have sat by quietly, respectfully, while people from Victory Springs and other cult-like organizations have besmirched my husband's name, our family name, and this for the sake of what? For us to have the right to keep our business open. You sat in your elected seat on live video and said, I wouldn't have my 10-year-old child there. That's great. We have our children there, and we have other children there. And you know what they do? Bake sales to raise money. Our daughter's band, who is performing right now, and we're missing it because we're in this 5-year Groundhog Day meeting of ridiculousness. We're done. And yes, I'm angry because this is disgusting. For every female employee we have that we cannot allow to work on Sunday, they stand to lose the potential of $5,200 a year. And that might not mean anything to you, but as an advocate for women and children and someone who volunteers frequently to walk the streets of Gainesville and try to liberate women from human trafficking, that is a big deal. And this is disgusting that we keep having to come here, that my students have to work all day and then come here and speak to grown people about how to do your job. We're tired, and we don't want to have this conversation any more than you do. If you noticed, when we started this 5 years ago, most of you don't notice because I think Byron's the only one that's been here the whole time. And God bless you for having to sit here and listen to this for almost 5 years. I apologize to you that no one has had the sand to do their job and just fix this. It is out of control, and it's disgusting, and that's all I have to say.
The comments that you made that were prefatory to the meeting were that our comments are made through our chair, which is our mayor. And what we try to do in these meetings, you can be for something, against it. Oftentimes there are critiques that are given that are of the subject matter. For example, Ms. Weller said there's some additional definitional tweaking that perhaps needs to be. Those are comments that are very germane to passage of legislation and the passage of an ordinance's legislative act. And I think what the mayor was trying to speak to is that when we run these highly emotionally charged issues like this, that we try to be civil in the manner of our discourse this evening, and we try to maintain that civility. And it helps to talk about the issue and not personalities. If one person is for something or against it, it is that person's right and choice and that sort of thing. But I think that that was what our mayor was trying to speak to. So if we can engage in that level of public discourse, and really our city does a really good job of that. I go to a lot of city meetings for all the various cities we represent, and one of the things I think that High Springs can pride itself on is speaking to the issues, whether you're for or against it. And that's what she was invoking this evening in her prefatory comments.
Right, and I apologize.
Thank you, sir.
I understand. And I apologize. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or inappropriate, no matter how it might come across. My husband and his partners have not been paid in almost a year because of this economy.
And my
So
comment,
when people are given time to talk about alcoholism and alcohol killing people and this, that, and the other, and we still never get resolution, it becomes very demoralizing and it feels very targeted, whether you intend it to or not. So I apologize.
It's not being targeted, I promise you. And what I think is not generally understood is that the ordinance that is on the books right now does not allow for the brewery to be open for Sundays at all. It was, if I could finish, if I could please finish, please. If I could please be allowed to finish, that's what we're trying to do. The fact that the brewery was being allowed to open on certain Sundays by special permit application was not in compliance with the current ordinance. We are trying to change that so that there is a legal way for it to be open on certain Sundays. It's, okay.
Madam, Mr. Attorney, can you please get, read to them the conduct of a meeting?
Thank you, sir.
For being out, I bet, that's, y'all being very rude about now. Very, very rude. That's not cause for, please. Let's not do that.
Sir.
Hello, I'm Shane Kiffin-Ayers with High Springs Brewing. A couple of weeks ago, it was mentioned that there weren't any people here to represent a particular side of this conversation. And part of that reasoning, naive on my part, was because the meeting prior to that, there was great conversation that was had. I think it was the best conversation that I felt like we had had with Commissioner Williams, I think, and Commissioner Bloodworth. You brought up some great points. I think being able to move it forward and have a good conversation. And I really, the last meeting was very discouraging, especially on the heels of one that showed great promise, especially with the adult conversations that are spoken of. And I think in trying to provide a level of clarity so that we can continue to be on a joint path moving forward, and recognizing that our request will be working towards having every Sunday available for us, rather than any special use permit that is insufficient for a for-profit business. And for any nonprofit, whether it's a church or the Women's Club or whomever, who wants to try to have a special event on a Sunday, like this year, St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo, all of these holidays that we attempt to celebrate some kind of thing that ended up on a Sunday. And our request for clarity will be that moving forward, we're working towards having every Sunday for a for-profit business. We can go about that either recognizing us as a manufacturer, or we can adjust the ordinance. And as long as we're continuing to have these discussions, we will continue to be present and make those efforts in that direction. Once we have come to terms on that, then we will back down and only support other people and other things, and will not be the primaries in those activities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And the letter that I provided you was from Connie Casey. She sent it to me, and I printed it to share with you, and that's for you to read, and I will have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
My name is Kathy Greiner. I have never attended the brewery. I don't know what they do. I don't know if children play and dogs walk and all that stuff. I don't know anything about the brewery. But in changing the ordinance, my request is that you be careful and you look at what could happen down the road. I don't know how that would be worded. I don't know how it would happen. But don't open the door for things that we don't want. Everybody seems to think the brewery is awesome. Apparently, there's a noise issue. I live way out, and I can hear the brewery. And we can go in the yard and we can listen. But irregardless of that, what other businesses are going to come here and want to open? And are we going to open ourselves for something that we really don't want here? That's my only concern.
Thank you, ma'am. I do think there's a lot of conflating of the noise ordinance and the alcohol ordinance, and I'm very well aware of that. And there are other noise impacts that certainly are not the breweries to own. But that's a separate issue. But it's tangential. It goes part and parcel sometimes, but there are certainly other issues that have nothing to do with the brewery when it comes to noise, but that's a separate conversation.
Janet Evans. I came tonight ready to speak on this whole idea of respect. I watched the last commissioner meeting that we had. I listened to people snap their fingers. I listened to a lot of comments that I felt were inexcusable, disrespectful. I listened to comments that were directed at you, the commissioners. I then got on to the social media sites. I listened to comments that were very disrespectful to the members and the community. Anyone having a dissenting opinion different than the particular group that's advocating for the brewery. And the same thing with the members here in our audience. When people come up and say something that is disagreeable, the laughter going on, just the disrespect shown to anyone who has something to say that they're not in agreement with. Now, I have been attending these meetings for a number of years, and there's always been something in place where people, like you spoke up tonight, there's certain behaviors that are inappropriate. They have no place in this room. When someone interrupts you, Madam Mayor, while you are trying to explain the reason for something, or says that, okay, here's some. Past practice shows that any compromise doesn't work. So these are some of the comments that were written down. Punishing the brewery. The mayor calls the dissenters small-minded group of 10 very vocal people, too scared to bring it up for a vote, getting in personal, and sometimes coming and something's coming and you will be affected by it. Big picture, small minds. Snaps his fingers. I've got 3 pages of stuff that I was really appalled at the disrespect shown. I wasn't going to say anything when the letters and stuff were read, because I thought, you know what, this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I thought, you know, this isn't so bad. And it has really, really deteriorated. And that's why I've gotten up here. You ran on a campaign of respect. You have always advocated for people, speaking in turn.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Excuse me.
Ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Please.
It's going to be a long night. Commissioners, Madam Mayor, thank you for the time. I won't be long. I agree. I don't like discourse and arguing and all of that. I think we can all be adults here. But I have to admit, I've seen that on the other side too, Madam Mayor. So to say that it's one-sided is false. It's pretty easy to see through social media on both sides some nastiness. I'm just here in support. I think that it's been said many times before. As a business owner here, I actually live in the historic district of Key West. I own here. So I am one of those people. And like others have said, I moved here because of that, of vibrance. I felt that there was some great energy about High Springs, and it had a great future to be a wonderful little town that people want to come and visit. And I opened a business here, and that relies on people visiting, tourism. And I think it's a little short-sighted to think that we wouldn't cater to them. I know there's a number of people out there that want a one-day town, and they don't want change, but change is coming. I think we just have to be responsible about it. I don't think this is an irresponsible move. Changing the ordinance, simple as that. Just change the ordinance. You know, let's get with the times. You know, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot by not doing that, in my professional opinion. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all of your support here.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Robert Geiger, owner of Spin Sweet and Savory here in High Springs, and I'm here in favor of having the ordinance changed, not just for the brewery, which they do a great job, and it's inspiring what they do, but Mayor, as you know, I'm very pro-tourism, and with my interchange, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, but my interchange with customers that are visiting from out of town, I see the necessity of us having expanded opportunities for visitors. Our landlords are building a number of Airbnbs above us, and for them to also be able to benefit from having additional venues on a Sunday, that expands us potentially from being a one-day visiting town on the weekends to expanding stays in our hotels, B&Bs, Airbnbs, so forth, to 2 days, even a third, and having people check out on Monday, which will also additionally benefit and impact positively businesses that are open on Monday. And then it just expands the horizon for the entire town. And I thank you for the consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, gentlemen. I think it's important that folks understand that the ordinance that's in our packet right now does represent a change, and I'm not sure if that's been really clearly communicated. I really appreciate Mrs. Weller's points. I think they're very, very valid in terms of further defining those days that are in there as it is right now. But gentlemen, do you have any input, any comments?
What's the special permit, what, 6? Is that what was put in there? 6 is the number?
I'm sorry, say it again.
There's 6 special permits only allotted a year? Or 6 special permits for one business allotted a year? Something like that?
No, there's not a.
There's no number.
the current
There's no
draft,
number in here.
It's not
Okay,
a
I know we had
number
talked
of
6,
limited-
and I didn't see it in there, but I was wondering. I think a special permit for something like this is ridiculous. I do. I don't think that we should make them jump through hoops during a situation like this or during a time like this. We have heard from citizens on both sides. And what I'm actually very happy to see tonight is that a lot of the citizens that are here speaking are actually citizens of this town, which has not always been the case in the past. So I think that's one thing that I'm happy about. This is a dynamic topic, and people seem in this town, I mean, I don't think you could list some of the more tumultuous topics and find any more division than you will in this town when it comes to alcohol. I have some special knowledge about how this whole thing started way back whenever we didn't allow alcohol at all on Sundays, and have gotten some very good insight from former members about how dark those days were, and I know Commissioner Williams remembers those as well as a lot of other people who I've spoken with. This town wants this. I would almost bet my my bottom dollar on that this town wants this to change. I said before that with it being so dynamic, we should send it out and let the citizens officially vote on it and let them make the decision and take it out of our hands because of how big. This might as well be our Mount Everest right here. And we have talked about this for years and years and years. And it's been brought up for years and years and years. And honestly, it's one of the reasons I ran 2 years ago. And we're doing a disservice by thinking that we're the only ones with the information here and stating that, well, we don't want to change it and we don't want our people to vote on it. And that's a problem. I think this ordinance, I will tell you this. I know some people say, you know, they won't take their kids there. My daughter saw her first Cliff Dorsey concert at the brewery with her father, which was an amazing time. And now we get to sit there and I get to introduce her to other artists that I like from around the area when they come here. And I don't know if you guys have looked at concert tickets lately, but when my kids wanted to go to Morgan Wallen, I didn't have $1,600 so I could get a nosebleed walking up the stairs to go see them. So it does provide a unique environment, and I hear at my house very different noises from different places. So I know there's the noise thing keeps getting brought up, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. I want to be honest with you, it doesn't. And we've said in the past, which I was disappointed in all of us in, because we said whenever they wanted to be open on St. Patrick's Day, that past practice didn't matter. But when we want to camp at the BMX track, past practice is the only thing that mattered. And I don't know, that's not consistency on our part. This is a hot button topic. I think at this point we need to suspend the ordinance for Sundays and put it on a vote for November.
Madam Mayor, I will say that some of the people that have contacted me are not in this room tonight. I welcome the brewery doing what they do for the community. I'm okay with it. Don't have a problem with it. Nobody's attacking one individual business in this dang town. But the people that are contacting me are not for the brewery being open on Sunday because of where they live, downtown area with the noise. Yes, the noise is a problem. I'm not saying they're connected. Maybe they are. But some of those people are not here voicing their opinion other than just contacting us individually. So I don't know which way to go. I see it both ways. Alcohol and restaurants are hand in hand in today's times. But this town, people that have lived here all their lives, Sunday has been a peaceful day for them. Now that's just the way it is. You come into this town, you come in here for a reason. You like High Springs, you love High Springs. I'm passionate about this town. I grew up in this town. This is my town. This is your town. But I'm not saying one way or the other, it's hand in hand. But people come to this town for the peacefulness of High Springs. What's wrong with being peaceful for one day a week? That's my view. That's my view.
Y'all are being very, very disrespectful, shouting from an audience like that. That's not where we operate. Please, let's respect one another while the commissioner's speaking, ma'am. Please, please.
And I'm going to say I am not a coward for being up here in this chair. Okay? If you want to do a vote, put it on the table. Let's vote right now. I'm going to have the passion just like you, mister. But you're not going to call me a dang coward like you did last Thursday night. It was wrong and disrespectful. You're wrong for doing what you did. I didn't run this campaign to be a seat to go against the brewery or no other business in this town or no other individual. I'm up here trying to do, just like the rest of these individuals, to do the right thing for this town. You got to be patient. Every one of you got to be patient for us to do this and do it the right way. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to bring our focus back to the proposed ordinance on the table. This ordinance, for the last 5 years, we had a process that was not legal. This ordinance put in the verbiage to make that process legal. So that is what we're voting on tonight. We don't need to go back and forth any longer. Are we going to vote on it or not? So I make a motion that we approve this ordinance as written.
I second for discussion. So, Mr. Attorney, some of the questions that Ms. Weller brought up, could you kind of explain?
I'm happy to, Madam Mayor, and it's a great question. One reading of this ordinance could be federal associated holidays, federal or state holidays. I think somebody said, might have been Ms. Weller, that a lot of times they fall on a Monday. Does that mean that the Sunday associated with that federal holiday is one of the Sundays that would be allowed administratively? I think we can insert, to fix the one question that she had, I'm always worried about putting something in an ordinance that is an attempt to fix the administrative procedure. So I think reasonable application process, something along those lines. And then our administration can say reasonable is 72 hours in advance, a week in advance, or whatever our administrative process is. Because as we've talked about before, there's usually a certificate of insurance process that goes on in conjunction with special events. And I think your administration can handle what is a reasonable time frame. So I think that could be the fix on that issue that Commissioner Weller brought up. Federally observed holidays are New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Martin Luther King's Day, Washington's Day, Washington's birthday, Juneteenth, Columbus Day, Veterans Day. My understanding is that if it's a federally observed holiday, then it would be the Sunday associated with those federal holidays. We can fix the ordinance real easy, and that's just an easy draft change. The other question that I think she brought up was, what about like Pioneers Day being an example? Is that a city-sponsored event? I don't know that it's really a city-sponsored event, but we can put in there citywide events or city-sponsored events, i.e. Pioneer Day, and then we can add on whatever normal other type generally recognized citywide events those might be. So we can say, in example, these type of days. So those are a couple of fixes that I had based upon the constructive criticism that was given of the ordinance.
So, Mr. Walker, I'm understanding that you're saying we could say, instead of city-sponsored, we could say citywide, because there's a lot of different organizations that sponsor citywide events that, you know, are the Chamber or are the Kiwanis may sponsor something. And then make that provision in terms of the federal holiday verbiage to allow for that Sunday, even if the federal holiday is not on a Monday, because that could easily be a 3-day weekend.
Correct.
Which would make a big difference.
Correct.
Okay.
And somebody, to expound on that, somebody mentioned Cinco de Mayo. You can add that to the language if your interpretation is that you want to allow for that date, then add it to the definitional section.
Well, there was also a question about, do they expect a special use permit to be submitted every time, or could they plan a year in advance? I see no problem planning a year in advance and just doing something in a blanket manner, but, you know, that way Cinco de Mayo could be covered in that, or, you know.
Correct.
It's just, I think it would be important to make it as uncumbersome as possible. Not so much.
I'm at a loss. I'm confused. And I just would like clarification question from the people sitting up here with me. Why don't we want to let the citizens vote on it? Is there like if somebody knows something I don't know, I'm willing to listen.
Our budget that ain't there for it.
Our budget was there for a special
That's really
election. Our
the
budget's there
reason.
for this. This is that big for this town. This is that big for this town.
And then the problem with voting for it is
How much
that
would it cost? I'm sorry.
The first commission meeting after the election, somebody can bring it right back up. So it really makes no sense for us to do that.
I think it absolutely does. I think you'd have a clear delineation as to what the majority of the town wants. I also think that based on where we're at, how much do we think it's actually going to cost? Do we have any idea what it normally costs to put something on there? Well, I know we have $10,000 listed for the opioid task force that they no longer need. And if we've paid it, they're going to give it back to us. So we could make a motion and put that money that's already earmarked for something else over to that. I think it's crucial on a matter like this, which is so toxic in this town, to let the citizens decide and to be able to come back and say, hey, look, this is the reason we did what we did. Not because we had personal opinions, not because we brought our own minds into it, but because we allowed the citizens to speak for themselves on this. They spoke for themselves to put each and every one of us up here in different ways and in different elections. Unfortunately, in an off election in this town, we only get 600 votes. If we go out this November to vote, I guarantee you almost every single person who can vote is going to vote. It's just that kind of year. And this is that kind of issue. And it's that big. And then it can get it off of us, because we have been talking about it and talking. And I'm not going to lie to you, every time I see it come up, no matter what side I'm on, I dread it. Because people are going to come in here, they're going to be pissed off, they're going to talk, they're going to get, unruly on either side. It doesn't matter, both. And it's like, you know what? It's so visceral to everybody. Allow them to decide. That way, when you come back to it, we always have that almost that barrier in front of us that says, hey, this is what they voted for. Let them vote. That way, if it gets voted down and people are like, they bring it up, sorry, that's not what they want. That's what we did. I think that's the safest and most responsible way that we can get this issue solved and get it out of our faces and allow us to go on to other business. I just think that's the most appropriate thing for us to do, and it's not something we're going to do every time. It's not something we're ever going to do. We're not going to probably do it again while I sit up here, but for something like this that has kept coming up and coming up and coming up, it's time for the citizens to make this determination as to what they want.
Before we agree to go to the November ballot, can we just do that on our utility bills and get citizens and get it quicker than waiting till November?
Be cheaper, maybe.
And cheaper.
It'll be cheaper and it'll be quicker. We did it for the farmer's market and you got 350 surveys back. That was it.
Well, but
And then it also, I just think that's I don't know, it's the cleanest way to do it. It'll cost a little money. It will.
But we do it on our own utility bills,
But
not gonna
everything else
cost us
costs money
nothing.
too.
Mr.
Well,
Scott.
the utility bill would cost the you know,
Well-
the cost of the paper, but the thing that with the utility bills, it'd be something we could at least reach out quicker, and the business owners would have a say that may not live here because they're paying utility bills as well. You know, that'd be a, I don't know, a more something. I mean, Angela, you tell me what you think. April's not here. You know, would there be a way to just send out a questionnaire in utility bills for people to return? Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Mayor, we can do that. That's a possibility. I will tell you that a large number of people don't open their utility bills. And I will tell you that from experience, because we have people that put their bills on auto pay, something goes wrong with the auto pay, and we get a call, and they say, we have late fees for the last 5 months. They haven't opened their bills. It's not a criticism, it's just a fact. And I don't think you would get the representative, if you sent out a separate survey, I'm not saying this is the right answer, but I think you would get a more accurate response from the population than putting it in the bills. I'm happy to do it, we can do that if you want, but I don't think you're gonna reach everybody. I think in theory, it's a fantastic idea, but the reality is, and a lot of people get electronic bills, you know, I'm just concerned that they wouldn't see it.
Mr. Scott, if we put it on the ballot, is there a like year span that it can happen? Like if it was passed or if it was denied, is there a certain amount of years that it can be in place? Because my thing is, I just don't think if we're gonna spend the money to put it on the ballot and then it can come back up, I really don't understand. Like, is there a time frame that it can have to last, like a 5 to 10 years?
You can do that. You can sunset something, you know, in a certain period of time. That's not the typical way of doing it. Typically, once it's passed by your electorate, then it stays in place until you have another referendum vote to modify that. That's the typical process. Right. Not a.
So I'm not sure I understand what you just said, Dan, and I don't think everybody could hear you.
Yeah,
If
I
it were
neither.
voted on and it were approved, there would be no mechanism then by which a commissioner could bring it up to dial that
If
back.
it's a charter amendment, it would have to go to referendum again to modify it, if that's what the intent is. If it's an ordinance, if it's simply implementing an ordinance, then you do have the power to, by ordinance, change something. So it depends on how you structure it, what you do, and how you do it.
Because, I mean, anytime a commissioner brings an ordinance to the commission, out of respect, we hear it. That's why we're here again, because Vice Mayor Grunder wanted us to have it. We had it last year, out of respect. We discussed it last year. We're going to keep discussing it however many times a commissioner wants to bring it to us. That's just the way we do it. So, so we have a motion and a second to approve the verbiage as written. Is that correct, gentlemen? Any further discussion on that?
Can you give me some direction, gentlemen, and in this regard, do you want me to amend it in keeping with my suggested language that any nationally recognized holiday, if the Monday is in that, or I'm sorry, if it's a holiday, it falls on a Monday, it's the Sunday that's associated with, we put that definitional language in there, and then we define what is a city-sponsored event to be a citywide event, i.e. Pioneer Days, weekends like that. Is that what your intent is? And if so, do you accept that as an amendment to your motion? And does the second accept that as an amendment to the second?
Yes, I accept the amendment.
Yes. Did I answer your question, Ms. Willer? Still?
Can you come up? Can you come up, please? Thank you, ma'am.
About special election.
Okay.
Not special election, to put it on the ballot.
Put it on the
Well, no,
ballot.
but you
Okay.
did say special election. You
I
said that it was
special
important
election,
enough.
We paid for it,
Yeah.
Right.
special election.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I've been sitting through the charter amendments, and I've heard the 5 people who are discussing the charter revisions speak continually about costs. And Angela has said that not necessarily in the charter amendment, but at other times, that it is very expensive to have a special election. I would even discuss paper ballots, and people just kind of, no, we don't want to do that either. That would not include the supervisor of elections and their machinery. However, yes, it'll cost us a little bit of money. It'll cost us more than a little bit of money to have a special election. And with the way the budgets are right now with the city of High Springs, you have to consider that very carefully.
We're not talking about a special election.
You did.
Well,
No, I didn't.
something
I
on
talked
the
about what
ballot.
happened. I talked about putting this on the ballot.
On the ballot.
For November.
Yeah, he was just
Yeah.
comparing that we
Yeah.
had a
I never
special
said we were
election
gonna
and
have
we
a
had
special election
money
just
for
for
it.
this.
He was just comparing.
He was
it.
comparing it
That's
to the
right.
special
You said,
election.
you were
Right.
going to tell, you said it would be worth it because of
To be on the ballot, not a special
Right, on the
election.
November ballot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
It's recorded.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have a duty to get it right and be done with this. And I just think that's the fairest way to do it. To vote on it, to have the citizens vote on it. And so my question would be, if this has been properly moved and seconded, once voted in or voted down, am I able to then make a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the verbiage in the proposed revised ordinance in the packet with the additions and changes that Mr. Walker has discussed, with it being recommended as a citywide event and the federal holiday exceptions for Mondays. What about, and with citywide events, can we also put in there, this is just a question, that the special event, that the permit application can include more than one? Does it have to be individual ones, or can we do a blanket one?
It can be for multiple events. I think that's not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Wasn't something a while back, but you couldn't put in an application of special permit 6 months prior to the event, they have some kind of.
That was something that Mr. Thatos had talked about for sure, I know. I didn't know if that was required or not.
What?
Well, they do have a process, because when you fill out the application, it wouldn't change for them, so they're not gonna have, unless they're having something like vendors on their property, or then they have to do like a site plan. I'm not on that committee, so I can't really speak to all of it, because I'm not on it. But they do have a process where they meet, and they all go through it, and they look at it. And they send it to each department head, and then they approve the special event permit.
Correct.
But that's only if it's something kind of extraordinary where they would have vendors and other, not just for being open.
No.
Okay.
Maybe it would be a separate application.
Okay, okay. Okay. Any other?
So are we voting for the wordage to be on the ballot for November?
No, we're
No,
voting right now for the ordinance that's in our packet
Okay.
to allow for them to be open on federal holidays and citywide events at an administratively approved level, which means the city manager would approve. And then if there are other events they would like to host on a Sunday that was not one of those two, then it would come to the commission for a vote.
Thank you.
So we're making provisions to make sure that they can legally be open on Sundays based in with those restrictions.
With the special permit.
With the special permit, yes, sir. And then Vice Mayor Grunder's point was that after this vote has been taken, can he make a motion to say, I'd like to put it on the ballot? That'd be a separate thing. So, Mr. Walker, are we clear in terms of verbiage modification?
I think I have an understanding of what it is that you're looking for.
So if this is voted on and passed right now, that would be recognized as the first vote And the second vote would be later in May, which would make the allowance for Memorial Day open on that Sunday.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Being it's an ordinance, I have to advertise it.
Okay.
So it would actually be the first reading in June. Because of the time frame I have to advertise it, there's no way for me to have this on the second reading for the second meeting.
Okay. Okay. So even if it were changed, as some folks here want, just every Sunday, it would still restrict Memorial Day because you would need to have that same
It
time.
has to be advertised 10 days prior. to the
Okay.
second to the second hearing, so, being we're just discussing it tonight.
Right.
It wouldn't go into the paper till next Thursday. That doesn't give us 10 days prior to the.
That's 7 days.
23rd. Mhm.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other comments? Based on new information? No? All right, I guess it's been properly moved and seconded that we pass this verbiage with the directed modification to the attorney. And this is a roll call vote, yes, ma'am?
Yep.
Okay.
Mayor White.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grunder.
Yes.
Commissioner Bloodsworth.
No.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I would like this alcohol ordinance to be placed on the November ballot to be voted on by the citizens to decide.
Point of clarity, Mr. City Attorney. Since this, what he's requesting, it wasn't on the agenda for discussion, can we vote on something like that for tonight?
You can, technically, you ought to amend your agenda to allow for it, if you so choose. But yes, you can amend the agenda and have this discussion, or you can push it to your next commission meeting, whatever is the will of the commission.
Could we add that on to the next commission meeting so that we could get an idea of cost, so that we'd know how much it would cost?
No, I think we've talked about this at nauseum, and I think we need to move forward with it. I really do. We cannot keep talking about this. We have got to move this forward, and this being so, so what did Angela, what did having a special election, not that we're going to have a special election, because I don't want that. What did the special election cost us?
I have not got the bill from the supervisor of elections, so I can't really answer that for you. The regular election was about, without the ads, it was about 7,500.
7,500, just for an entire election. So if we added one thing to it, it's not going to be, probably not going to be more than 7,500. That is, we have that. We have that with that 10,000 from the opioid task force that's coming back. So we easily have less than $7,500 in there.
So then the $7,500, it's not going to cost any more than that, no matter how much is on the ballot? Because we've got the
Well,
charter
it'll be the
amendments.
amount. The cost would cost us the amount of space and the number of ballots for the citizens to vote. So what space it takes up on her ballots, that's what we'll pay for our citizens to vote. Because she's already running an election, I don't pay for that portion.
So this is the most cost-effective time to do this. All right. I mean, do we truly want to know how the citizens feel? This is the way to get it. It'll be the cheapest time in history to get it. Well, not the cheapest time in history, but it will be the cheapest for now. There's no special election. There's no having to hope people open anything up. It's right there in front of them when they vote. They vote. Let them speak. We're out of the way. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, it takes pressure off of us. Let them vote. Let them decide. I think that's the cleanest way to go about this. We have heard both sides of the table. Absolutely both sides. Let's let them vote.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a quick question of the clerk? What's the lead time for the supervisor of elections to add to the ballot?
So I will, I'm July, because our qualifying period for our election for candidates is July. So I literally will give it to her the same week. I will give her that.
So if this was
Our
decided
charter
on-
review will present next meeting So those amendments will also have to go to the ballot. Whatever the commission decides, if they want those to go forward, that will also have to be placed on the ballot. So that's also going to be a cost for us to put those items on the agenda, ballot as well. We do have other things that have to go to the ballot.
So we have time. We definitely have the time to add this in. There's nothing, I mean, we're gonna add charter review amendments in there, so,
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of time, because remember.
right, right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because I believe this, if I'm correct, Attorney, we would have to pass an ordinance to put it on the ballot. So again, I'm going to be restricted to advertising. So we just have to make sure we get it there in time.
So we have to pass an ordinance putting this on the ballot.
Correct.
So that is, we are kind of up against time frame then. Okay. So Vice Mayor Grunder has made a motion that we amend the agenda tonight to include drafting an ordinance to put the issue of alcohol sales for a non-restaurant or somebody, all the appropriate verbiage, to go to the ballot in November for the general election.
That's correct.
Okay, that's the motion that we add it for the general election. Okay, motion dies for lack of a second.
I'm sorry.
All right. All right, so that closes out this issue. We voted on it. We have approved the changes. That's the first vote for the ordinance. Now Angela can advertise it, and then we'll have a second vote. Okay. All right, that concludes our unfinished business. Next on the agenda is citizen requests and comments for issues not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comment to 5 minutes, please.
And I'm the chairman of the Corey Family Foundation, which is an international nonprofit foundation. It's a private nonprofit foundation where we support community efforts. One of the efforts we supported over a year ago here was the Wall Dogs effort and the murals that they had painted, which I think people really enjoyed that weekend. Two of the murals, though, haven't been back in public, and they're actually sitting in one of my barns and have been for over a year. That is the one called The Educator, educators, plural, and one that is called Cave Diving. And both have been in my barn. We're actually moving soon, and these need to be placed someplace else. My understanding is with the cave diving one, there's an issue. I don't understand the issues behind these, but one has to be a change in
zoning.
In
Yes, sir.
zoning?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Okay, I'm not sure how difficult that is or whether they're planning it. But with the educators, is there an issue with that one?
I can speak on the educator mural.
Yes,
I
sir.
actually was in the meeting when they brought it up. And I wasn't a commissioner at the time. I found a business that was willing to take it, and they told me they did not want to put it there. So, in my opinion, we found a location they didn't want it. So, I don't know what we can do for you all because they didn't like the location I found. So.
Where that was left from the commission standpoint was that the people who wanted to put the mural there were going to come back to the commission with a drawing to scale so that the commission would have an idea and the plan board would have an idea of how much of the view from the schoolhouse would be occluded with that there. And that was where we left it. So we haven't.
So it was
we
going
haven't-
to go in front of the old school, is it?
There was a possibility of that, yes, sir. But the drawings and the photos that we received didn't really give an idea of how it would fit to scale, and that was where it was left. That they were going to bring back a drawing that was to scale to show where it would be and how much of the windows it would block.
Yeah, but
And
no,
that
not-
was
not that meeting. So it was a meeting because they didn't want to put it on the city property. So I found a local business, Lee's Daycare, was willing to take the mural and put it on their daycare. They wanted it on the city property, so that's why we're here today, because they didn't want to put it on the daycare.
So why wouldn't it go on a city who are they when you say they didn't want it on?
I guess the Heart of High Springs, is that the organization that's?
The Heart of High Springs didn't express any interest in putting it on the private property that did want it, and that certainly is that's their right.
Okay.
And when they brought it to the city to be put in front of the old schoolhouse, where it was left was that the city needed scale drawings to scale.
Okay.
So we could see exactly where it would be. That's
Okay.
where we left it, and
Got it.
nothing else has been said about it.
Okay. Good. I
For-
just wanted to understand. And
Yes,
if
sir.
it's just the matter of doing that, I think that.
Well, that would be the next step,
Okay.
certainly.
Okay.
But in terms of the rezoning of the property where the cave diver one was going to be, there's some difference of opinion in terms of how that needs to go. But when that one was approved, it was approved contingent on that property needing to be rezoned. Everybody agreed it's not a residential property.
Right.
It's the old post office.
Right.
But that process still needs to be followed. I
Right.
don't know what previous city staff might have committed to. Nobody talked to the commission about that. This is just what happened in the meeting,
Okay.
that it needs to be rezoned.
So a year now and still it hasn't been rezoned.
Well, it's not the city's responsibility to do that. It would be the property owner's responsibility. Now, the city
rezone
does have another mechanism by which they could do that if we were redoing the LDC and we were rezoning properties within that process, but that's just not something that we have the bandwidth to handle right now.
Okay.
So there's a couple different ways it could happen for sure.
Okay. And the educator, right now, all the issue is getting a scale drawing to show it in front of the old school property?
Like,
Is
I
that-
can't say that's all the issue, but that was the next step in that discussion, was that the commission wanted to understand where it would be in a scaled sense.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Watson. My question is, too, about the wall dogs and the two murals that the gentleman just spoke about. It's been a year, or actually over a year now. I don't care what you do. I don't know about zonings. That's not my job. Excuse me. But don't take another year to make a decision. Do whatever. Get the Heart of High Springs involved. I understand they were the main part of it. And find out what needs to be done, and just get it done. Why do we have to keep delaying and delaying? I don't care about zoning codes. Wherever it's going to go, get together with the Heart of High Springs, make a decision where you want it to go, that they're in agreement with, so we can get those so the public can see them. Thank you.
Sue Weller, good evening. Just a little bit of lightheartedness. This past Saturday, Kiwanis had its 4th mini golf tournament. And as we do, and have had in the last 3 years, we had a competition between the fire department and the police department. And unfortunately for the police department, the fire department won for the 3rd time for a 3rd year in a row, so they get to take the trophy home.
Is it rigged? Because I've heard Chief is pretty good.
Firefighters just have so
Not
much
good
more
enough.
time on their hands to golf. When you're
That's
off
what it
like
is.
73 days a month, you have plenty of time to golf. Chief, come on, we got to get I'll approve it right now. I want PTO time for our guys. They need to be out there golfing. It'll be a mental health day. Everybody gets a mini golf mental health day.
Cops are just too honest.
That's a fact.
We are actually looking at other competitions.
They do try hard.
It's really that firefighters can't count that high. That's the real fact. They're like 1 truck, 2 truck. That's why they got to put 5 guys on 1 truck. Cop 1-to-1 ratio.
Oh.
Yes,
I'm going to have to
ma'am.
step up here for the firemen because my dad was a retired fireman. They're going to the scene and y'all are still at the coffee shop and donut shop.
That is factual. I've kicked in way more doors than firefighters. Much more versed at it. They have to wait for us to tell them it's okay and safe.
Thank you, Mrs. Weller, for that. We needed that. Thank you.
That was
Yes, ma'am.
good. I appreciate that.
My name is Drew Travis, and the Civic Center Park, I don't know how this has to happen with the city commission or the planning board or any of these, but on the inside of the fence along 441, I would like the city commission to think about creating a memorial parkway. In other words, having a citizen get a permit and plant a native Florida tree, like a live oak or a longleaf pine, and designate that area to be treed. You know, you got to be so many feet from the fence, but there's nothing there. And it would make a lovely shaded area for future events in the park. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I'd like the city commission to revisit the developer's 300-foot notification of neighbors. I'm 300 feet from the road. We have the Bridlewood development came in with 2,200 homes, and nobody knew about this. This is a tremendous impact on our lives. That will only have two roads, 174th and 222nd, to access that road. That's 2,200 cars twice a day. That's an enormous, I worry about the runoff. When you have 1 inch of rain on an acre, that's like 27,000 gallons of water. Where's it going to go? Now, I know there's sewage and there's stormwater runoff, but that's not the yards. That's not the streets. You have 27,000 gallons of water on 600 acres. That's 30 Olympic pool-sized water catchments. That's only 1 inch of water. So I'd really like the city commission to rethink that 300-foot notification. Maybe 100 homes that border that area. We found out that this was going to happen by the surveyor mentioning it. There was no signage. I went to Tillman Acres. There was no sign there, but the closest house was more than 300 feet from the property line. This is an enormous impact to High Springs. So those are my two things. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Julie Tapia Ruano. Now that you've brought up Bridlewood again, I would like to concur with my neighbor Drew Travis. I live 2 doors down from her. Ms. Weller's also on our street. Our issue going forward, I know we've got them approved, they're platted, they're things, but if there's any way we can help get them in the future going forward to not cut into 222, to do the traffic surveys, to maybe reroute them, out to the main highway, the state highway, but to preserve again the scenic nature of of our Northwest 222nd Street, Northwest 154th Place, and Northwest 214th Terrace, which encompasses those 3 tree-lined roads in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Linda Jones, I'd like to comment on the Wild Dog situation. The original agreement, and by the way, for those of you who weren't around at the time, that was a huge, huge issue in this town. There were so many people who did not want it, but it came about. It was agreed that there would be no murals on city property. So they're trying to get it at the old school house, which is city property. And one of the first steps, as you said, Madam Mayor, is to bring the drawings as you asked them to do. But it was the original problem, was not wanting the murals on city property.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Brad Riddle, Chairman of the Plan Board and the Historic Board. I really didn't come to talk about this tonight, but I did bring my folder just in case the murals came up, because it has been a long time. Y'all are correct. They were supposed to bring back basically, I'd call them certified drawings, if I remember correctly, because where they wanted to locate that in front of the school, there need to even be wind load calculations based on that size of that mural. And just to give y'all, some of y'all that are new, that mural is larger than that wall back there. I actually measured it with a tape measure. It's 24 foot wide, 11 foot tall, which is higher than the ceiling back there. Anyway, my whole point is I took a bunch of elevations. I didn't use a transit. I used line levels and did all the measurements. I don't know how well that y'all can see this picture. I can give it to you. But if you're looking out those school windows, can y'all see the picture of that light? The top of that mural cover is to the exact, within an inch, the height to the top of that light. So basically, depending on where it was located, like they originally had it drawn, set out from the building, it's going to block part of City Hall here. You're not going to see the caboose, and I've also taken pictures from inside. So I just kind of want to give you a refresher course. I have no problem with the mural. One of my suggestions at this point in time, the drawing and all the landscaping, I think it would look nice, but it needs to really go back up against the building, if that's where they really, really want to put it. That way it won't block the windows. And I'd hate for it to end up in a bad storm. It just, just go to flying everywhere. Because if they're going to mount it, it needs to be on aluminum frame, and Mr. Alligood needs to look at the specification. It needs to be anchored properly and then concrete. It needs to be tied down, or it could do a lot of damage. I wish that gentleman was here, and I would have shared that with him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. And we're going to move on. Is there any response from the commissioners at all? All right, new business. Discuss, consider, and act on letter of engagement and contract renewal with James Moore and Company for auditing services.
Madam Mayor, exactly what you just said. We are moving forward with completing the fiscal year 23 audit. And we have worked with them on the last, since I've been here for 2 years, but we worked with them on the last couple of audits. They've been our auditor for quite some time. We have a really good relationship with them. They've been doing a great job on our work, working with us through all the different transitions of management and finance directors and things like that. So our preference would be for the commission to approve this and move forward with James Moore. It is prudent to do an RFP at some point. I just don't think that right now that would be the best idea. We're already behind on 23, and we want to be back on schedule to be timely with these. And the transition to a new auditing firm takes quite a bit more time the first year, because you've got to introduce them to what your organization is like and how everything is set up.
They've always been very, very helpful when I have questions. They've been really responsive, so I've been impressed by them for sure. Gentlemen, do you have any questions or input?
My only question, I think I asked this last time, are we on track to be on time? Because that's going to be my determination next year. Are we on track?
For 23, we can't be, because I was out for 3 months.
So it's from our end.
It's 100% our end, because that's when we do our audit work, is in the fall and the winter. So between October and March is when we complete the audit. So
last year, was it on our end too?
Yes, it was, because the transition in employees and the change of our chart of accounts mid-year, prior to my arrival.
I was told that we got a $20,000 bill from the IRS. Is that true?
That was from 2018.
There was a 2018
That was a 2018 bill.
When
That
did
was
that come through?
$29,000.
Yeah.
That was fought by the city and lost.
Oh, that
We
was
lost.
back. but
That was
Yeah.
back in 2018.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know where somebody was getting that from, but somebody called me and said that, and I was like,
Oh, no, it's true. We paid a
well, no,
big, we
They
did.
said a recent one. like
We
We
paid
had
it
to
recently
pay it
because we've
recently.
been fighting it for so long and we
That's
lost.
correct.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, because as long as it's from our end, because I remember when he did the presentation, that this year we can expect to be fined because we're gonna be late. So as long as it's from our end.
We're not going to be fined.
We shouldn't be
That's
fined,
not-
right?
Well, that's what he said in the meeting. The auditor said it in the meeting, because that was a question. That's why I keep asking it over and over. Because I want to make sure it's from our end and not theirs, because he already stated we're going to get fined. So that's what he said out his mouth.
Okay, I'll follow up with him.
Okay.
Get some more
What is
information
the
for you.
process on an auditor's system like this? How long does it take to even go to a new one? I mean, are you looking 2 years out before you go to a new auditor? I see this is what, a 5-year contract?
It is. To engage with a new auditor, there's the time of the RFP process, and then when you first start out with them, it takes several extra months to familiarize them with our system. They'll have a whole set of questions about how we do things that the prior auditors have already gone over several times, so they are familiar with them. It's not impossible at all. It's just given where we are right now, it would set us that much further behind.
Understand.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Any questions from the audience? Right.
Make a motion to renew the contract with James Moore.
Second.
All right. It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the contract with James Moore for auditing services. Does this have to be roll call, or can we just vote? Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, James Moore. All right. Next issue on the agenda. Discuss.
Do you want me to read the resolution?
Absolutely. Yes, please, sir.
Okay.
I would appreciate
It
that.
is Resolution Number 2024D, City of High Springs, Florida, resolution of the City of High Springs, Florida, approving that certain agreement between the city and Bobby Sheffield, Archie Allen Alligood, Janet Sheffield Alligood for the purchase of the city of the property commonly known as the Priest Theater, making certain findings of fact, supporting the city, approving said agreement, recognizing the authority of the mayor to execute and bind the city to said agreement, directing the mayor to execute and bind the city to the agreement, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is passed resolution number 2024-D upon its reading by title only.
Gentlemen, any questions, comments?
And I think we took care of the problem about the land between the building.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and then how soon will we actually start fixing the roof? Because
Soon-
hurricane season is coming.
Right. That's right.
Hopefully, it gets approved, grant funding gets approved, and closing is within, we'll look at it, but it's just within a short period of time after all of that is approved. So this is the first step of the process, and then we should be able to get it closed up readily.
Madam Mayor, I will add that we have received the funding for the purchase from the state. We have it in our bank account. We got
Okay.
it last week on
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay.
So that won't hold up the closing at
Good.
all.
Okay.
And then, once that purchase has been made, we'll obviously need to do an RFP for services. So that will take some time, and then there'll be,
Right.
need to be inspection, design, engineering. So obviously, we don't have a timeline, but there's quite a bit to do before anybody does anything to the building, just to manage expectations.
In terms of time frame, if we approve this tonight, can we get started on the RFP process now?
Yes.
Yeah,
'Cause-
because that's like an immediate need, because we just had a shingle just fell off. I know that's a small thing, but the more water hits that roof, the worse it's gonna be, and we don't want it to collapse, and then all of this is for nothing.
Yeah, it needs to be, that building needs to be shored up. I mean, that's right, you're 100% right.
And in this contract, with the appropriations funding, there's nothing that will preclude the city from reselling the property once the roof is redone and it's vertically stabilized. If we get to a position where we're out of money and all of the work has not been done to stabilize it, can we still sell it? Okay. Have there been any conversations with any prospective buyers about what they would like to see with anybody.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, yeah, because so long as we can stabilize it, re-roof it, turn it around and sell it for a fair market value, we could use potentially that money that we use to sell it to help seed for maybe more appropriations for Chief Shepherd for our request next year, because we had no match this year. If we had, let's just say $450,000 that we sold it for.
Right.
Could we use that for matching so we could get more money for Chief?
My understanding is there's no restrictions on sale of this building.
Okay, okay. Because Chief needs more still. We've only started, so. Okay. Those are the only questions I had. We are not committed to any course of action other than stabilizing it and reselling it. Gentlemen, any other questions?
Let me clarify something now. So we buying this to resell it? If that's something we're gonna discuss, or that's just something we don't decide what we're gonna do?
That's what we've discussed here so far. We haven't decided that, but that's been kind of the discussion so far. That we're buying it to, just buying it so that we can help save it. But the city, I mean, in terms of all of the work that would need to be done to reopen it, it far exceeds the appropriations money we have. So the city had not expressed interest in maintaining ownership. Is that something that you prefer to discuss, something different?
Well, I'm quite sure there's probably different options. I just don't want to close the door on different options.
Sure,
That's a
sure.
possibility.
Yeah,
to-
nothing has been decided.
To save that building and.
Right.
Because I hate to see somebody go in there and gut it and turn it into whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Yeah, the door options haven't been closed yet. It's not
Yeah,
closed.
no, any option is open, but we just don't have the money to do anything more than we'll be able to do with the appropriations funding.
Yeah. I just don't want to close the options, you know.
Sure.
There might be some grants out there, whatever, to
Mhm, mhm.
preserve that building as a theater.
Which would be great. That'd be great for downtown. If we could have somebody operate it as a theater, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, not so much as a theater, but you can do all different things in there. Concerts,
Sure.
soundproof
Any kind of
walls,
live
that's just a joke,
performance.
y'all, that's
Yeah.
a joke.
Yeah.
Graduations,
mhm.
there's so many things that we can do with that. I'm gonna throw this out there, historical building. It's just, it's a treasure. And I just don't want to give it to somebody else, and too many options. I just don't want to say we're gonna buy it to sell it. I just don't want.
We have the ability to do that. It was important to me that we know that if we buy it, we still have the ability to sell it if that's what we decide. If we decide something different,
Okay,
any
yeah,
option
that-
is available, absolutely.
That sounds great.
Yes, sir. Yes,
'Cause
sir.
I don't want people hearing over this, we're going, to sit in the business of buying business to flip them.
Right, right.
We don't
Yeah,
want that.
we're not flippers, that's right. Yes, sir.
We'll be on, which, HDT, what TV is that thing with?
HGTV?
HGTV, which my TV stay on, not me, but. Okay.
All right. Any questions or comments from the audience?
Drew Travis. Do you have to buy it? I mean, can you send the money back? It's a grant, right?
It's appropriations money, yes, ma'am.
I don't know
It's-
what that means.
It's from the state, so yeah, it's essentially a
Okay,
grant.
but if you decide tonight that, no, that it's not a bad deal, that's not a good deal to buy, can you send that money back?
You could always take it back, but you don't spend it.
I mean, so it's not a have to.
No.
No, it's not a have to. The
Okay.
commission has voted in a previous meeting to move ahead with the purchase,
Why?
to save a historic building. It's,
Do you have a buyer?
There's been several interested parties that have
Have
come
there?
forward, yeah, but they haven't made it.
They haven't made it
I've had
public,
meetings with people.
but it
though.
is, so that's interesting.
How much of the purchase price is covered by the grant?
about a third.
So then you're on.
All of the purchase price is covered by the grant, and then there's about 66% more available for shoring it up structurally.
Okay, that's not our money from.
Correct. We have
That-
1.04
I mean, that's our
million.
taxpayer money from the
Yes,
state.
it is
but-
our money. You're right.
They're giving it back to us for once.
We got 1.04 million from the state, and the purchase price in the contract, I think, is about $347,000.
So you have that much money, that 600 whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
To fix it up.
Right, right.
And you might have a buyer.
And not just, we're not gonna fix it up all the way. We're gonna shore up the roof and then shore up the structural issues that it has. And then our intent before was to get out of it and give it into the hands of somebody who has intent to keep it historical, and we can enter into a contract to make sure that stays that way for a period of time.
Okay, my next question is, what happened with Adventure Outpost?
We bought the property.
For how much?
I don't know, that was before I came.
Before me.
It was approximately 490,000, I believe, and that was done with financing, and it's being repaid through Wild Spaces Public Places money.
That was cash flowed, and then we voted to borrow money to replenish the Wild Spaces Fund. So, I didn't know how much it was. Are there any other restrictions on that purchase property? Because my understanding was when we entered into the contract, there was a limitation that we could not sell it. Is that correct?
There are limitations on that property related to what can be utilized. There was environmental restrictions that were placed on the property. Can't build on it. There's a number of restrictions associated with that particular purchase, yes.
And the intention at this point is to keep it as a public park, and we're going to have to do something to make the access to the river ADA compliant.
We should sell it to the county.
I don't know that we can, that's the
Sell
thing.
it to the county if they leave it as
Could it be what?
Can we sell it to the county?
Sell it to the state.
Sell it to the state? Make it
As
There
long as
isn't-
it's, long as the restrictions are that as long as there is the ecological process, then I think whether it's the county or us, I believe we would be all right with that.
I agree with you. I looked at this heavily because of that purchase alone. I looked at this heavily to make sure we were not stuck in the same situation that I came up here and realized we were in with that outpost, the canoe outpost.
It could be added to Olino State Park.
If they'll buy it, I'll give it to them.
Talk to the state, because they bought the piece across the river that had a spring on it.
Right on the other side, on the Columbia County side?
They just finished, well, just within the last 2 years.
They're calling that part of Olino now?
I forget what the name of the spring is, but yeah, that's part of River Rise now.
Okay,
Yeah, it borders Olino's property on that side.
interesting.
So the state might be very interested in
Right.
I think it's Alachua, I forget, but they just donated 160 acres in the middle of River Rise to the state. And they're desperate for that river front. But isn't there a park right next to Adventure Outpost that the city owns? Like 72 acres? And they blocked,
Not that I know of.
they blocked the entrance off a couple years ago and wouldn't let anybody on it?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You know the piece I'm talking about, don't you, Brian?
72 acres?
72 acres.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think we have
like,
anything like that.
Is that adjacent to the garbage dump, the old garbage dump?
I'm not sure.
That was city-owned property for years.
But that's the,
So it's environmentally a mess.
yeah,
Oh.
that's county, I think that's county now, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I'm concerned about the city entering into buying a piece of property with the intention of fixing it up and selling it, because I've been here before. You remember, Brian, right? The pig property? And that cost a bundle for the city. You know, they were going to flip it and make money, and it ended up costing them.
Yeah.
This is my concern, that we're into this with a have to. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just have one question. Under the contract, I didn't have time to read it all. Can you tell me, has a Priest Theater, has there been a termite contract kept up on that building? Because the reason I ask that is You know, I know this community is very passionate about it. I'm just looking at it from a dollar standpoint. If it has termite damage, I can't even imagine what it's gonna cost for the repair, much less tenant. I mean, you probably, I'm just throwing a number out. You may be looking $20,000-$30,000 to tent that building and get rid of the termites. Is it in the contract? Are you aware of that, Mr. Walker?
There is a 7-day due diligence period. Buyer's expense within 7 days from the effective date, determine whether the property is suitable in buyer's sole and absolute discretion, during which term the contract buyer may conduct any tests, analysis, surveys, investigations, inspections that buyer deems necessary to determine buyer satisfaction, engineering, architectural, environmental, zoning, flood, subdivision regulations, soil and grade, availability, access, roads, water, utilities, local and state regulations, on, asbestos, soil and groundwater contamination. I would include termite inspection with that. Now, it's up to the city to engage in whatever inspections it's going to do, but we need to.
Well, I would
do
highly
it right
recommend
away.
that because you don't need another headache and
Right.
spending money we don't have, even though it's grant money.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry I was late. Anyway. My name's Tim Linkus. I've lived here since 1990, and the Priest Theater is wonderful. My girls grew up in it, and Mrs. Sheffield, I used to watch her when somebody was acting up. She would go down and grab them by the ear and tote them out of the building and call their mom and dad, and nobody wants that.
That was me a couple times, to be fair.
Yeah, I know your dad.
Yeah, that was me a couple
Yeah, you
times.
didn't want part of dad. I know I'm acquainted with Mr. Walker. He was here back when I was still involved, but I left because y'all used to fight, you know. And it's good to see everybody up here laughing and having a good time. Byron and I have had moments of intense fellowship, but he's a good man. Mr. Bloodsworth, I know by reputation, you know, he's been around here forever. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm back, and I promise I won't torture none of you unless you cause me to, because I'm passionate about this town, and it's just the greatest place to live. I moved from South Florida up here with my family, and it probably mostly saved our lives because we lived in South Florida. And it was a great place to, you know, raise up kids and stuff. And, you know, I was the town weirdo because I was the guy riding a motorcycle, and I still do. Grew my hair out and just, you know. But, you know, I was glad to see the chief sitting over here. I come off the freeway. I was at an AA meeting. I'm a recovering alcoholic and a drug addict, and I was coming up through, and one of the police officers that apparently had responded to the bad accident down on 95, and I saw it. There wasn't enough semi-truck left to put in the back of a pickup truck, and I was watching them fellas, all the officers, and wow, it affects you. But it was cool because you saw all the 18-wheelers, miles of them. I was driving from Ocala, and I got up here, and I'm like, oh my God, because I got stopped, and I went around the back way, and all them fellas in them trucks. 40 years ago, men that worked for that man right there pulled me out of a wreck, and I shouldn't have survived it. And it was probably felt like that guy. So, thank you for not fine, and thank you for letting me come to your meeting. You know, I look weird. I'm really a kind guy sometimes.
Welcome home, sir.
Hey, been here 30 years. I took a little sabbatical off to Yankee Land. Ooh. It was bad.
Anybody else?
Real quick.
Sean Coles, High Springs resident. I just wanted to commend you in moving forward with trying to save the priest on whatever level it is. If it's just to stabilize it, I think that's real important for the community. So I commend you all on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Farnell Cole, and I'm one of the guys you were talking about earlier that doesn't live here. I'm one fence post away from being in the city of High Springs.
boy.
I moved out into the country, way out by the Lime Rock pits, and now I'm surrounded by High Springs again. But at one point in time, I'd lived here all my life. I was a water plant operator. I was fire chief for a while. I worked for Tom Wolf as a police officer, so I like High Springs. I heard the mention of what could be done over there, and I heard a question about if you had buyers. We had a buyer. We had a buyer months ago. He was willing to match the grant. He had sat down and he had money in hand, was ready to go. I came in 3 different times and requested a meeting with, at that time, the city manager and assistant city manager. Never even got a phone call back. So in that time, we did exactly what you were talking about. We talked to everybody that would partner so we could keep that place open 6, 7 days a week. There'd be something that could be used for it. Everything in the world. It's just a matter of getting it up and running. I hope that's what y'all end up doing.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, gentlemen.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2023D.
2024D.
Oh, 2024D. It's got 3.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024D. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call, resolution. Sorry, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Grunder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. All right. And our last item here on our amended agenda, discuss and review a bid protest procedure. Mr. Walker, sir?
Madam Mayor, glad to. Basically, we don't have an administrative procedure right now on bid protests. That doesn't mean that you can't implement one if a bid protest comes in, but we would like to establish a set procedure that we have. What the concept of it is that if there is a bid protest, then the protester has to conduct actions within a certain period of time. Otherwise, they lose their ability to contest the bid award. That's step number one. Second point of it is that you always want to have an administrative procedure so that if something can be handled on the city side before it goes into a court type of a process, you have to go through the administrative procedure and follow that first before you go to court. So it sets up a procedure of resolution, perhaps, that can happen. In this proposed, which is based on another city's bid protest resolution process, the finance director is your first step for the bid protest, and then it can be appealed to the city manager before you can go to court. That's basically what this bid protest procedure allows for. And if you like that process, we can bring it back and we can have more discussion on it. This was just for a discussion this evening. We recommend that you have some procedure. You can do a multi-step, you can do finance director, city manager, city commission. There's lots of things you can do, but this is based on another city and they do the finance director and then to the city manager.
And this, as I'm reading it, basically keeps the scope to protesting a bid award.
Yes.
This doesn't provide any avenue for protesting a bid award ex post facto when the work perhaps was not completed to scope. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping those two things separate.
That's correct.
Right?
Correct.
What is available to somebody who wants to protest something after the fact? Because that doesn't really address this. Because that's something kind of contemporaneous right now.
I would like to talk to you more about
Okay,
what that
okay,
is,
okay.
and then maybe we can come up with a process. But typically, that would be if there's something, a contract that's in place right now, if I'm understanding your scenario, and the work is not being conducted in accordance with the contract, then attorney's office, city manager's office would put out a letter to the contractor and say, hey, you're not adhering to the terms of the contract, and we need you to do X, Y, Z in order to do that. And if it doesn't get cured, you put them on notice in accordance with the contract. If it's not cured within a certain period of time, then you retain the rights to terminate the contract, seek damages, whatever that.
So really keep that separate anyway.
Right.
That's a completely
Right.
different process. I understand. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Yeah, because I was trying to understand that same thing. Contractor one does the job but doesn't complete the scope of work. Being able for contractor number two to have that protest if they didn't complete the scope of work. We don't have anything for that contractor two to be able to protest. So what we're saying, this is not for that right now.
This is not for that. This is just to protest the award of a bid.
I think
Like what
So
we
the
were bringing up
process.
last time, the date was changed or the
Right,
bid number?
exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
But
Yes.
I was looking down here for the time of filing. We're only going to give that contractor 2 or 3 days to, that's kind of short notice and hurry up, get it done. If we're going to go by this right here, I think they at least need to have 7 working days
Okay.
to be able, if they need to go to their lawyers or who's advising them, I don't think 3 days is going to be enough. Now, I'm not in that legal realm, so I don't know.
So the reason why there's a short time frame for these things is that you have a number of bidders on a job. Let's say there's 5 bidders, and you award it to the bid to number 5. They're mobilizing and possibly getting ready to conduct the work on that contract like immediately.
Gotcha.
And so if number 4 says, well, wait a minute, I think they're not the lowest and best bidder for these reasons. Their bid was not in keeping with the bid specs on the job, and we think it was an improper decision made, or whatever their bid protest may be. You got to do it right now because this one's underway. Number 5 is underway.
Gotcha.
Almost immediately. And then the other piece of it is that there's a suspension of the existing contracts, the progression of the contract until that bid protest is resolved. So you want to try to keep a pretty tight time frame on that. And the other piece of it is that all of the bidders should know that they have to get immediate action done on this because of the fact that everything's getting underway.
Would we, as a commission, be involved in that protesting or decision-making at all?
No.
It's going to be lawyers?
It'll be the contractors in the city primarily.
Okay.
And the other, whatever.
If
bid
they
number
so choose
5
to go
is,
that
and bidder
route.
number 4, they're going to know
Okay,
what's going on.
all right.
Can we put some verbiage in here to address when you award a bid based on the apparent low bidder, and then apparent low bidder files a change order 48 hours later, saying, oh, well, now it's going to cost us this much more, because that happens. How do you address that?
Well, I think that really should be in your RFP, your
Okay,
request.
okay.
That no change orders are going
Okay.
to be accepted. You can't lowball it and then do a
Right.
bait and switch.
Right. Yeah.
'Cause that would kind of be unfair to the other bidders, wouldn't
Of
it?
course it would, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But if that verbiage is in the RFP, then we're covered. Okay.
And my thought was I thought about the same thing y'all did about, what do we do afterward? And I guess that goes back to our people have to be on top of seeing what's going down. And if they see what's going down and it's not right, then we got to have a stop right there. And then they should take over that. And, the city manager should get in and automatically send that letter out. And then if we find out later that, like we've been told that the work wasn't done to scope as it was, hopefully we can go back and check that now. And then honestly, I think litigation would be the next proper movement, I think, right? So, I mean, yeah, I don't think we can have something in place, but we have to get on people, make sure they do it the right way. 'Cause
Exactly.
if what we were told is correct over there by Ace Hardware, that's gonna be a freaking problem. And I know that, I agree, because I'd ride that road out there by the park all the time with my kids to go to the ball fields and play. And, yeah, it's definitely not.
Well, I went there and I measured it.
What did it come out to?
14 and a half feet.
Did it really?
Yes.
So it's the full footage.
No, it's supposed to have been 20
Supposed to
feet.
be
20, okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I thought it was supposed to be 14, but okay.
No, it's supposed to be 20.
So it's not even,
Mhm.
ain't even close.
No.
No.
I'm gonna need my 5.5 feet back.
Yeah, I don't know how we
Paid for
get
the
that
5.5
back.
feet,
That's
I
a
want
different issue.
Madam Mayor, if I may, we are changing internally our spec writing, our
Okay.
RFP writing.
Mhm.
My understanding is that the specs, the way they were written, the vendor did not do anything wrong the way they installed that. Even though the result is not what you would want, our understanding is that was an internal issue, not the
Okay.
vendor failing to follow the specs. I don't have details, that's what, we can get you more information on that, but that's my understanding.
Please.
But we haven't had a really solid RFP process. So we're starting to look for, I mean, I could grab Gainesville's and copy it. It's very lengthy. It's difficult too in a small town with a lengthy RFP process because people don't want to do the work to read all of it for some of the smaller jobs, but it's really important for all the reasons we're talking about. And in my mind, once we've hired a contractor, they've done the job, if their work is not up to par, that's between us and that vendor. The bid process is done. If we have to go back out and hire somebody to fix it or do it over again, that's a whole new process. And yeah, it does not seem fair to the other bidders. I don't disagree at all, but it's too complicated. It's just not practical in my mind to do that.
I guess I
think
need to be corrected because I thought I read that bid and it said 20 feet wide.
I'll get some more information to confirm. But I think the challenge lies in the fact that once that first bid is done and work has started, you know, then it's the city's problem, because we
Right,
hired
right.
somebody.
Mhm.
If the job isn't getting done, or we don't like what's being done, that's really our problem, and, you know, we shouldn't be doing that, but, you know. But we do need a more robust process. We do not have, our spec writing has not been super strong.
So what happens when someone just doesn't meet what they're supposed to do? So we just don't say anything about it?
They don't get paid. We don't make final payment until it's been inspected by the department that is overseeing the project for the city. So whatever department, roads, streets, would have to inspect that project, make sure they completed the work as they were per the specs, per the response. And then if it's not in compliance, then there's additional conversation, try to cure it, as the city attorney said, and then we go from there. If they don't, then we have to take additional action.
So these two pieces of property that we're talking about right now, where they expected, like, did they actually go through that with the director at that time?
I don't know, I would have to go back and find out.
Can we get a, I know it's extra work.
Yeah.
But can we get a report?
Absolutely.
With an explanation as to, I would like to see the RFPs that went out, what was agreed to, who inspected, what their report says, and then I also want to know what we're going to do to remedy it if it's been done incorrectly, you know what I mean? Like, start having a
Absolutely.
plan of
Yep.
action as
Yep.
to how to move forward, to
I
get
agree
those things
100%.
done the right way.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
Yep.
So then the only direction we're given at this point is to proceed with putting a proper bid protest procedure
That way
together.
there is a bid protest.
Right.
And I hate to do this, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what Mr. Blankenship has to say, because.
Yes,
Yeah, 'cause
I'm ready.
You're in the world. You live in this world. I just.
I wasn't sure it was proper to call him up because I was waiting on him to get up
You
here.
and I both, I've been looking, you and I both been looking at him like, I'm looking for something here.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing much, so. Yes, I was reading over the 3 days
for a notice to perform is generally plenty of time. Like
Okay.
if it's just on a Friday, by the weekend, you have time to look at it, so. But since in this case, the last bid that was gone out for the street, nobody issued a notice to perform or notice of intent before it was bid, before it went to the commission and was voted upon. So that's pretty much what came down to all this. We have no way, nobody can protest because nobody knows when to protest. And that was the only thing that I did see in C3 of, once the commissions voted on and approved it, that there was still no notice to perform. There's really no way to protest. I know there's different forms of that we can go around it, but I think I still have, my dad files all his paperwork meticulously, but on our paperwork, it did say that we were given, it was written on there 20 by 985.
Gotcha.
So whether it was on the RFP, we were handed a piece of paper, said, this is what I want. So that's what we went off of.
That's how you got a request to bid?
Yes. Here's the packet, here's the streets to bid, there you go. That's what we were handed, that's what we went off of.
And it had expectations on there, we expect you to do this.
Yes, and whenever, the expectation of, and again, some of it was verbal, like taking up the concrete street. That was, this is what we're pretty much going off of, because the RFP was so vague, it was so open to interpretation that, but it was just like, hey, should we do this? This is the right way to do it. Yeah, that's kind of the way to do it. So the city of Newberry, I've been dealing with a couple of their bids, and it's very inclusive. I mean, 65 pages of RFP documents you got to go through. It is a pain, but
It's painful, but it protects
it
you.
is. It is.
And
So
the
It'd also help you, because you guys sound like y'all are, and I don't wanna bash any other workers, but if y'all are coming in and saying, this is how we do it, because it's the right way to do it, I wanna make sure our paperwork says that they're gonna do it the right way. You know, no
it's
matter
the
who gets
standard
the
of
bid.
what everybody's generally held to. And again, trying to judge anybody else's work, it's neither here nor there. It was just basic scope of work.
Right.
We were told to do one thing, were they told to do another? Then we don't know. If they were given paperwork that was different than mine, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe this was the way we were supposed to do it, and this is the way we ended up saying, well, this was the budget, who knows? I can't say. That was a whole different management group back then, so don't really know. So, question, trying to get this over fast. So, because there was no notice performed, and the last bid for doing the most recent city streets has gone out, can I still follow this, since it's not yet in place, can I file a petition to the finance director, since it's already been a month or two? Can I still file a petition against that bid, since nothing was in place, there was no notices, it was just they're doing okay work, just vote on it. That was kind of what I saw at that commission meeting.
First of all, I don't really know the particulars of the particular matter that we're talking about. And I would be very hesitant to start talking about a particular matter in a public meeting like this.
Right, no, I don't want to do this in a public
But-
meeting. I was just saying, go to the city staff, finance director, kind of work through the proper.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask before I did all that, and it's like, hey, it's all said and done, but I wanted to ask a question.
It may be said and done in this one, in this instance,
And
I don't know.
if it is, again, as long as they're doing good work, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I just want people to do good jobs. That way we don't have to come back and deal with this, so, appreciate it.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a
Yes,
question?
sir, please.
Since we're here and you're here and the body's here, to achieve that 20-foot on that road by the cemetery, what were you going to have to do to achieve getting 20 foot at that intersection that him and I are quite frequent and know about? What
It was
were
that
you-
pine tree.
Was that the only thing you were going to have to move, or were the other two trees going to have to go there as well?
The oak tree is so close, it is going to cause damage to the road. It's not a problem when you have a soft surface as millings or limestone. That can be maintained and dealt with. But oak trees' roots do grow, and they're as big as the canopy. So we will have an issue with that in the future, but that could be 5 to 15 years, who knows, with how fast that tree will grow. But as far as maintaining or getting 20 feet at the entrance, that was simply just the pine tree. It wasn't going to interfere with the fence or anything else. It was just remove the pine tree, remove the stump, bring in proper base, and lay the asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
But it's the biggest issue. That's not a big issue, but like I said before, the last meeting, it's the concrete roads that's underneath city streets that it's going to be the biggest kick in the butt as far as cost to do stuff.
I didn't know nothing about it, and I went and researched it, and it's a nightmare apparently. If you leave it over, if you leave the asphalt over top of the concrete, it's a nightmare.
It's a pain, because then you're just adding to the cost of, okay, now we got multiple layers we got to deal with. Now we got, it's one of those things where they had a good idea 30 years ago. Well, the 30 years is up. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments about the bid protest procedure? All right, so gentlemen, are we going to direct the attorney to come up with a formalized procedure based on the conversation?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is that all the direction you need, Mr. Walker?
That's all I need.
All right, good.
Good deal.
Then you're up, sir. City Attorney report and
Nothing
update.
further.
All righty.
Talked too much already.
Okay. Mrs. Wilson, no updates. Commissioner Bloodsworth, any comments?
I just thank you again for the ladies in the clerk office. Great job. I think, was this the week that they were
Yes,
being
sir.
recognized?
This is their
Thank you very
week.
much for all of you ladies.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, my employee of the week is Officer Lunkin. If you have ever met Officer Lunkin, he is full of energy and he will talk your head off.
Nothing? Sir?
No, I just want to thank everybody for tonight. It gets, it's lively, but we always bounce right back. So I appreciate everybody, and thank y'all, Ms. Clerk, and everybody in the office in there. Y'all are doing a hell of a job. And I agree, Officer Lumpkins is absolutely, he's got a nickname for every one of the kids at that school. He knows every daggone one of them. And it's not just in the mornings either. If I see him at the grocery store, he's talking to the kids, and I'm like, all right, you stay with him for a little bit. Let me go shop real quick. Keeps them from talking to me. No, he's awesome. We have such a good thing with our first responders and around here in High Springs. We are doing it the right way, Chief. And
Yes, sir.
Chiefs, I should say. Thank God we got two of them.
That's right. That's right. Sir? Please, sir. Oh, tangled up there.
I know some of the stuff, and my mama taught me if you didn't sit with your eyes or hear it with your ears, it's hearsay and all that, but I can't understand how somebody could be fired, and he's got 34 years on the job. And he must have been knowing something, because he was one of the, when the manager wasn't here, he was one of the managers with the world's top chief of police over here. But I think, this is my opinion, everybody gets opinion, I think y'all giving Thomas Henry a bad thing. And another thing, I'm not gonna talk about the man, because I ain't met him or nothing like that, but I wanna know how you can go on a job and work 1 week and get 2 or 3 weeks vacation. How can you do that? Because she has to work for her vacation, he has to work for his. The chief even has to work for his, and then he goes on vacation. And I know for a fact, in the minutes, because I checked, don't run that gate or that mouth, Mama says, unless you know what you're talking about. In the minutes, it was recorded by the new city manager that I would give them at least 6 months so I could evaluate and all. He comes right in here, he ain't even been on the job a week, and he fires Thomas Henry. And everybody, from what, I wasn't here, so I don't know, but the way I understand, everybody up there went with it to fire Thomas Henry. Everybody went up there. Now, that man's lived here a long time there. And I've known Thomas Henry a long, long time. Now, Thomas Henry ain't doing well. Hey, that's all right. Thomas Henry will be okay. But anyway, I don't think it's right. I hadn't heard that man's side of the story. But I know for a fact it's wrote down and all that thing's going right now. that he said he would be here at least 6 months to evaluate all the employees. Now, how can you come in here in a week and just fire somebody? You know? And I don't know, but I know that there was something about what it said. I don't know for a fact. I hadn't read that part. It had to do something with the ethics thing. Your honorable attorney. Now, and when you go to court and all that, is you're innocent till you're found guilty, correct? That's true. Okay, my time's up. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for giving me
sir.
the time and all that. I wasn't here. I've had other things there, and it was a crying shame. Now, I'm gonna say this because I can get on him. You know where that man needed to be tonight? You know where he needed to be tonight? He's the chief of police. He needed to be at the memorial service for Alachua County, honoring all our great law enforcement and all that. My dog and 2 horses, we took our time, our gas, our money to go over there and do what we were supposed to do, which we've done for years. But, Chief, that's all right. I'll let you slide this time. God bless y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, preacher.
All right, but take care.
Well, Chief, I'd like to thank you, too, for all of the help that you and your officers gave us for Pioneer Days. They were amazing. And seeing Sarah's daughter walk around with the bubble machine was probably the highlight of my weekend. It was awesome. Chief Peters, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're glad you're here. And I want to thank Jason and Jennifer also from Public Works. They were great help for Pioneer Days. And the pastor that opened up our meeting tonight with a prayer came back late Saturday night to pick up and put all of the bags of trash I couldn't lift into the dumpster. After he had already gone home to be with his family, he came back to do that. So I want to thank him. And I want to thank our Charter Review Board. I've been coming to their meetings, and they're doing such a good job. They've been detail-oriented. They've been on task. They've been doing this city a profound service, and I'm just really impressed with what they've done. And I want to wish Happy Mother's Day to all the moms and the grandmothers. And that's all I've got. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and go home and go to bed.